Ivona Vouten is an aristocrat, and despite her beauty, she never stands out among the ladies, and men greet her with perverted eyes. If they commend her on anything, it's her physique, but not until Duke Gospal. Gospal is interested in her summoning magic and never looks at her with lust, which makes her heart happy, so she continues to learn how to summon beasts for Gospal. Because the Parma Empire has only one child, a princess, the emperor must pick between his nephew Gospal and the Duke Claude of Agentine as the next emperor candidate. Unlike Gospal, Duke Claude is known as the master of the Holy Sword and is regarded as a genius. This threatens Gospal, so he uses Ivona and her summoning skills as if they were his own. As a result, people now refer to him as the Golden Summoner, but this never satisfies him since Claude is always one step ahead of him. He forces Ivona to do the experiment that can give enormous amount of mana to help summon high-level beasts, and everyone who tries the experiment dies or suffers terribly. He did not even care about the fact that this could put her in danger. But it is also reported that the demon army is attempting to resurrect their king, so though unsure, she decides to learn the experiment in order to protect the one she loves, her cousin Tristan and Gospal. In her room, oblivious to the extent of the effect, she casts the spell nonetheless. She's still in her room, bleeding and unable to stand up. Finally, after many failed attempts, she manages to cast the spell that grants her an unimaginable amount of mana. And after looking at herself in the mirror, with her condition, she knows she'll die soon. They're now on the battlefield, and Gospal merely refers to her as his helper. Her face is bandaged, and people are staring at her with disgust, but it doesn't matter to her as long as she can aid him. After the war, Gospal is hailed as the hero who saved the world and is given the title of Crown Prince. But that night, she finds out that her cousin and her fiance, Gospal, are having an affair. Okay, for those who are confused, her cousin Tristan is a guy. Ivona is crying her heart out as she hears their conversation and realizes they just used her as a tool. Confusion, anger, and shame infiltrate her body, and she can't believe she's given up her life just for this. For them. And just like that, she collapses and dies. But like a dream, she wakes up with no body aches, and when she checks in the mirror, her skin is soft with no pus or spots. Confused by what's happening, she asks one of her maids for the year and discovers that she went back in time, 1 year before she died. She is now trying to assess her situation. Thankfully, her contracts with the Divine Beast are still intact, but has no longer enough mana to summon them, and she's not known for her summoning magic since she's hiding from Gospal's shadows. She shudders at the thought of her past and promises to never live the same life again. So she plans to get away from Gospal, and in order to do so, she must cancel their engagement. Suddenly, her attendants enter her room and announce that Baron Gospal is waiting for her. But unlike before, she's not rushing and takes her time getting ready. She no longer plans to be the same Ivona who was easily swayed when it comes to him, so she makes him wait. While preparing, she wonders if she'll ever waver if Gospal changes for the better. She doesn't. She no longer desires Gospal's love. Yes, girl, never again. She then greets Gospal and does not apologize for making him wait. She's treating him differently now, which irritates him. Nonetheless, he informs her to attend the festival with him and to summon her divine beast to increase his reputation. Gospal could never summon without her, so she smiles and tells him to take care of it on his own. Gospal is confused, as Ivona never went against him before and believes he has her under control in a way that she'll never be arrogant around him. But now she's acting differently. He thinks her act won't last because she needs him not only out of love, but also for financial support, so he leaves for the day. Our girl is determined to be treated better this time. Meanwhile, her father is having fun with some young ladies in a bar when suddenly one of his attendants informs him that Gospal has cut off his finances and that Ivona and the Baron appear to be fighting. He then calls his own daughter a bitch for opposing Gospal and goes home. Ivona, on the other hand, is in their garden, gathering ingredients for Curidan's potion. In her past life, it could boost mana, but the potion has never been completed since the war ended, and its use is no longer required. She knows what will happen in a year and intends to use the potion as an alternative to the previous experiments she did. Her father then appears, angrily informing her about the Baron's financial support. And Ivona's naive response makes her father even angrier and ready to slap her. But Tristan, her cousin, the only person who's important to her, intervenes. She then realizes he just always steps in whenever she tries to retaliate and always asks her to understand. Ivona thinks Tristan is the mastermind behind the whole scheme, despite acting all innocent as if he's not guilty. Suddenly, her father cuts in, saying Tristan is also a victim, and with a sad expression, Tristan confirms this. This is just the perfect time for Ivona to prove him wrong. She summons Arsla, which surprises them since she should not be able to do so at this time. And using the beast's power, she reveals when Gospal and Tristan met and when he received all the gifts. She then acts all sad, saying that the reason that Gospal and her are fighting is all because of Tristan, making her father angry. Tristan tries to explain, but gets kicked by her father. She is currently in the marketplace buying Kiridan fruits, but since they only grow in the north, her options are limited and it's not enough to make the potion. Coincidentally, Tristan and Gospal happen to be there and meet her. Well, it looks like they're on a date. Tristan then tries to clear up their misunderstandings or whatever, but Ivona is not planning to act friendly at all, which irritates Gospal. He yells at her for being impolite and blames her for Tristan's expulsion from their mansion. Our girl has had enough of this lover's concern and summons a divine beast, Hazlet. All of them believe that Gospal summoned the divine beast, which causes a commotion in the marketplace. Now he's afraid people might find out that it is Ivona's power, and so he tries to calm her down. But Ivona, who's acting innocently, wants him to show how important she is to him. Of course, he can't say the words, not with his lover watching all of this. Ivona adds that Tristan will be happy if they reconcile. Tristan wonders why Ivona is acting all strange, given that they are very careful with their hidden relationship. So despite feeling hurt, he agrees with her. Gospal has no choice but to forcefully say he loves her. Ivona acts all happy hearing it, or so they thought. She then requests Gospal to give her the Ophelia gemstone that was given to them by the Emperor, which she never received in her past life, and she believes Tristan has it. She's trying to see if they'll be able to give it to her, and so she leaves riding Haslat. Later that evening, Gospal gives her gifts, as though he has no intention of canceling the engagement. Now she needs to find another way to cancel their engagement, plus how to make the potion, when she suddenly thinks of a solution. The northern region where the Kiridan fruit grows and its ruler, Claude Argentine. The people in the Parama Empire mock Claude Argentine as the imperfect duke, for they believe that unmarried people are considered imperfect, since he doesn't have a fiancé even at the age of 25. In her previous life, she accidentally knew the reason behind it. They were once on a battlefield, and when she was trying to hide from everybody in the forest, she happened to see and hear the Duke declare that love is difficult and burdensome. Unlike other soldiers who meet girls and then leave, she senses that the Duke respects other people's feelings, though he is not that friendly. During the war, she remembers that only Duke Argentine helped her. He's the only person who treats her with care when everybody tries to avoid her. She sees the difference between Gospal, who treats her like a tool. Maybe if she marries Duke Argentine, she'll be treated more humanely. Ivona plans to meet the Duke during the dance party of the Ophelia Festival, where women from all classes are allowed to show their affection. She decides to buy a new dress for the party, but since all boutiques are crowded, she chooses the quiet, secluded one and opts for a bluish-gray dress. As Ivona enters the dance hall, everyone thinks she is graceful and very elegant. Our girl is a real head-turner. And the dress? Perfect. She tries to look for the Duke, but finds out that he is surrounded by other nobles. And while waiting for a chance to talk to him, she overhears some people praise him for his skills, while others insult him. Just then, the lady in red enters the room and introduces herself to Duke Argentine as Julia Selton, daughter of the Marquis Selton. She eagerly tells him how she waits for that day to meet him and wants to hear his story, but the Duke seems uninterested and tells her that his story is not suitable for her to hear, and just like that, he excuses himself, leaving her in disbelief. Ivona follows the Duke to the garden, where she's approached by a guy whom she ignores. He angrily grabs Ivona, guessing she's looking for the Duke, who's nothing without his sword. She tries to defend the Duke, but this only makes the man more determined to hit her. Thankfully, the Duke appears, preventing the man from hitting her. Ivona thanks the Duke for the help and introduces herself, then asks if he can spare her a little time, in which he declines, as usual. Because the Duke completely disregards her, she has no choice but to summon a divine beast to catch his attention. Ivona then takes the opportunity to ask him to marry her. Too straightforward! Straighter than Gospal, if I may add. Ivona wants a marriage not based on love, but on trust through an agreement, and having her as a wife will be perfect for his situation. She then explains that she can help him because her family is powerless. In other words, if Duke Agentine marries someone like her from an uninfluential family, this will help show that he is not interested in becoming the next emperor. And in exchange, she needs him to annul her engagement to Baron Gospal, and believes that someone powerful like him can do so. Ivona reassures him that they only need a marriage based on agreement, and before they separate, the Duke decides to think about the proposal, which makes her happy. On her way home, she passes by a busy street and overhears that everyone is waiting for the fireworks at midnight, which reminds her of her first and last time watching them with her mother. Remembering her mom's bruised face at that time, she understands why her mother had to leave her, when suddenly, she senses a frightening mana. Using her abilities, she summons the divine beast and checks her surroundings. She realizes that telling everyone what is going on will only provoke a mass panic, so she decides to put a stop to what is about to happen herself. Upon investigating, she discovers suspicious men that are using wizard techniques, and as she is about to stop them, they are already taken down by a red-haired man. Uh-oh. Now he thinks that she's one of the enemies. Ivona escapes as he is about to attack, thanks to the heavenly beast. Meanwhile, the Duke finds it suspicious as well, and thinks that it is the work of the terrorists. While investigating the area, he runs across the red-haired man, and they decide to help each other. But before they split up to continue checking the area, he warns the Duke about the summoner he saw a while ago. All the people are surprised as one of the bomb terrorists takes a child as a hostage. He calls those who disturb his job to come out, or else he will kill the child. The Duke makes his entry and tells him to let go of the child. Trying to scare the Duke, the abductor pushes the knife to the child's neck, which makes the people react more, while the mother pleads with him to save her child. To appear defenseless, the Duke drops his sword, which makes the abductor attack him, thinking that he can easily take the Duke, not realizing that the Duke is far stronger than him even without his sword. The people rejoice since the child is now safe, but as soon as the Duke is caught off guard, the terrorist uses his dark power to cause an explosion, putting the people in risk. Just then, Ivona appears, containing the explosion and protecting the Duke, and while looking all sassy, asks him if he's all right. Go girl power! Ivona declares that she'll protect him, but the Duke is unsure if he's hearing her correctly. She confirms again, adding that having his guard up all the time must be tiring, but they get interrupted when they hear the fireworks start coloring the sky, so they watch in silence, while the Duke is secretly glancing at her. Blushing at that. The red-haired man is confused to see the Duke with the summoner he saw. She then quickly hides behind the Duke, as he explains that it was because of Ivona's summoning skills that there are no casualties. People are rejoicing and praising the Duke for saving them. They all wish him to continue protecting them with his royal's holy sword, but Ivona can see the burden on his face. She can't imagine the huge backlash from the people if he didn't save them all today. She feels sad for him, as he's always risking his own life for the sake of others and enduring all of that by himself. Before leaving, the Duke calls her and hopes to see her at the ball. The next day, Ivona meets Gospal at the ball, who's acting all suspicious. To tell you what happened, Gospal has already discussed their marriage with Ivona's father and has asked Tristan for the Ophelia ring. They don't have any choice but to give in to her demands, marry her, and have a child with her. Losers. Back at the ball, Gospal tries to persuade Ivona to forgive and marry him as he puts the Ophelia ring to her fingers. Oh no! Think, girl! Ivona refuses to accept Gospal's marriage proposals since she already has someone in her heart, and that person is none other than Duke Agentine. Hearing this, Gospal cannot help but show his true colors, mocking her more than ever, and to his surprise, Ivona answers back. He stops and thinks about his next move, then grabs her hands, telling her that he will annul their engagement. Inside the hall where everyone is having fun, he announces that the engagement between him and Ivona ends today, because they are going to be wed instead. This shocks Ivona, and then he tells her that her father already accepted his proposal, so she cannot run away from him. Panic swells up in her. She can feel the shackles again, as if it were all happening again. Just then, the Imperial Majesty enters the room and offers to toast to their hero, who gallantly serves them. The Duke glances at her as he steps forward to the Emperor. The Emperor informs him that he will grant whatever he wishes, so he requests to marry Ivona Vuten. Though still surprised, she steps forward, taking her only chance, and asks the Emperor to allow her to explain. She then discloses that they are only engaged because her father wants them to be. He's a fake fiance, and she's only helping him become a better summoner. When the Emperor asks him, Gospal has no choice but to go along with her, or else she'll expose more of his secrets. And so Gospal admits that in return for helping her family, she indeed helps him become a better summoner. With his confession, the king is considering revoking their marriage, but in return, she should accompany the Duke and Baron to the war as a summoner. Of course, Gospal opposes to the idea, claiming that she's weak, but the Duke disagrees with him, which amazes the Emperor. Ivona steps in and requests that the Emperor allow her to showcase her abilities. Everyone goes to the garden, and she summons one of her divine beasts and performs her magic, causing all of the flowers to bloom, impressing the Emperor and all of the nobles. Gospal attempts to approach her but is cut off by the Duke, asking Ivona for a dance, which she gladly accepts. She thanks him for defending her earlier and also informs him that she has a lot of flaws but will learn all of the work and house-related responsibilities as a duchess. But to her surprise, the Duke did not care for any of those and simply asks her to do whatever she wants and stay by his side. She beams a smile, making the Duke all flutter. He then leans in close to thank her for proposing to him. At the Baron's mansion, Gospal and Tristan are discussing their unexpected situation, and Tristan worries that his plan is crumbling. As Ivona suspected, this is all part of his master plan. For some context on who Tristan is, his father and Ivona's fathers are twins. However, his father did not get any title, so he grew up in poverty. He has wanted power since he was young, and so he tries to climb the social ladder by getting close to the Duke, but gets ignored. So he then resorts to befriending Gospal and using him. Ooh, the manipulator just got manipulated? He plans to meet with Ivona, thinking he can't afford to lose his puppets now. Ivona and Tristan are having tea, but he keeps on persuading her and tells her that the Duke is no good. And when she talks back, Tristan again defends the Baron, making her angry. She walks away, telling him not to come to the wedding. When Ivona leaves, someone approaches Tristan and gives him an offer. Ivona agrees to meet the Duke at his residence in the capital, and when she arrives, the servants and the Duke's butler, Stefan, greet her warmly. While showing her the way, Stefan informs her that the Agentine family has served the Empire for many centuries, earning them many enemies, and as a result, the house has been magically protected. It astounds him that Ivona knows where all the magic traps are hidden, and this just shows how skilled she is. Without him telling her, Stefan now thinks she knows he's not human. The Duke is still working when they arrive at his office, and judging by the look on Stefan's face, he believes Ivona has already won Stefan's favor. They discuss things that should be done before they can go to the north, and as they talk, he notices that Ivona is thinking of something else. He then tells her not to worry because he is also planning to meet her father, to which Ivona panics because she doesn't want her father to be involved in her life after marriage. The Duke plans to tell more about his family, and so he reveals that there is an ancient magic kingdom in the north. It is a place that neither magic nor technology can explain, but they left it as it is because they believe it to be dangerous. Before she leaves, she accepts to let the Duke buy her a gown, so they go to her preferred shop telling her to pick whatever she wants. Inside the shop, while talking to the owner, Ivona notices that the Duke keeps holding her hands and thinks that maybe he just wants to maintain their image as his fiancé. As she looks around, she cannot choose because there are more dresses than before, and on top of that, she likes them all. The Duke decides to buy them all for her, which makes the owner and Ivona speechless. On their way home, the Duke thinks Ivona will be happy for all the gifts he bought her. She just can't believe that she will have all those dresses all at once. The news of the Duke and Ivona shopping together reached Lady Selton and her circle. They began comparing Ivona to Lady Selton, who spends her time preparing to be the ideal wife for the Duke and continues gossiping. Lady Selton corrects the ladies for questioning the Duke's ability to choose a wife, but she intends to humiliate Ivona at the Crown Princess's birthday party. Meanwhile, inside the carriage, Lady Selton vents her frustrations, disappointed that the Duke did not choose her to be his wife despite her preparations. She believes her fight isn't done and plans to show Ivona where she stands. Bitter. Inside Ivona's room, the maids are all excited for the gift she is receiving from the Duke. She thinks that the Duke misunderstands her because he keeps sending her gifts every morning and not all at once. Ivona has difficulty deciding what to wear to the birthday banquet for the Crown Princess, which will be held in the capital, and unlike other events, has limited invitations. And since it is her first time attending such a party, she feels nervous, especially because she will be the Duke's partner. For now, she feels happy for all the attention the Duke is giving her. Stefan escorts her, and since this is her first time attending, he informs her of the event's schedule. The men will go to the mountain shrine to receive the holy water, while the women will wait in the capital and do some embroidery, and the ceremony will start in the evening. Stefan warns her that high society is on a different level, and that many nobles will be jealous of her situation. As Ivona enters the hall, she can feel all the stares, but she's determined to hold her head high, for she knows she will receive even more when she becomes the Duke's wife. After waiting, the Crown Princess arrives, giving her welcome speech, and thanks everyone for their presence. The ladies exchange glances as Lady Selton takes the first seat, which should have been taken by the soon-to-be Duchess Ivona. Instead of reacting, Ivona invites the ladies to take their seats, just as she herself does the same. The friends of Lady Selton keep praising her for all her good qualities, making Ivona feel that she is better than her. This is nothing new to Ivona, so she feigns ignorance to their indirect insults until they suddenly ask her for her embroidery skills, to which she honestly responds that she can only do basic embroidery. Julia uses this to attack her for not being wife material, but she proudly tells her that the Duke is someone who allows her to do anything she wants and doesn't care what others think. Ivona then receives support from some of the ladies, but Julia puzzles over how she can be so confident despite not matching the good wife standards. Julia's pride can't afford to lose to someone as unprepared as Ivona. She intends to create the best embroidery for the event, as the Crown Princess will be picking one from their works. Ivona, on the other hand, although not great, tries her best in sewing, but her mind keeps wandering to the Duke, so she plans to finish early before he comes. But it looks like she's mistaken, as she was informed that every year the Duke always comes back late. When the doors suddenly open, the Duke appears, much to everyone's surprise. And without greeting anyone, the Duke just walks directly to Ivona, comments on how tired she looks, and asks her to join him to eat. As soon as they leave, the ladies begin discussing how lovely the two look. While Ivona and the Duke are eating, he notices how she's loving the food and gladly informs her that the chef's brother is working for him in the north, which makes her eager to go there and eat. The Duke's interest in Ivona seems to be growing, and so he asks to know more about her, since she never talks about her life. Ivona, on the other hand, is not ready to tell him about her situation, and the question makes her anxious. But to her surprise, the Duke just randomly asks why she didn't pierce her ears. And so they talk about it with ease, and then the Duke suggests having her ears pierced by him. They are now in the Empire's best jewelry shop, and the Duke appears to have already ordered an earring for her. A man with a plan. Love it. He then carefully pierced her earring, making her all nervous. The Duke also explains that her earring, when infused with mana, can change shape and be used as a communication device. Ivona is surprised that the Duke gives his present so much effort, but she wonders what he would have done if she refused to have her ear pierced. And to her surprise, the Duke tells her that he doesn't want to force her to do anything, making her anxious as no one ever treats her nicely like him. Before going back, the Duke notices how cautious she seems after receiving his gift and wonders if the Baron has never given her gifts before, which would explain why she appears uneasy. And so she explains what a jerk the Baron is. Upon hearing it, the Duke professes that even though they are only in an agreement-based marriage, he will never treat her badly and would want to give her the best, so she should not refuse anything from him. At the banquet, all of the invited nobles are now celebrating the Crown Princess's birthday, and as per the Empire's tradition, the princess will choose one handkerchief that the ladies embroidered. But to everyone's dismay, she chooses the one Ivona made. The princess then calls for the pair to come forward and mentions that she wants to speak with Ivona regarding her summoning skill. While unsure how to answer, the princess asks the Duke for permission to lend Ivona to her, but the Duke, being the gentleman that he is, tells the princess that it is his fiance's decision to make. This gives Ivona courage to speak, and the princess gladly accepts to be Ivona's pen pal. After that, they continue the celebration when Ivona notices Lady Selton going out of the party, and as much as she wants to speak with her, the other nobles start surrounding them, praising her embroidery skills while mocking Lady Selton. And this doesn't sound right to Ivona. They were stunned when she voiced out that she was lucky to be selected, but that's not a reason to start insulting the lady. Somewhere outside the palace, Lady Selton cries, thinking it's all over for her, as she feels humiliated after being beaten at what she does best, when two drunk nobles try to hit on her. Rather than fighting back, she worries that rejecting them and getting angry at them will start a rumor, reducing her chances of being married. Luckily, the men are thrown into the water. Lady Selton thinks Ivona is the one who helped her, and instead of being thankful, she thinks Ivona did it to disgrace her again. But she's nowhere to be seen. All her life, she dedicated herself to being a perfect lady and followed all the rules. But Ivona is different. She does what she wants, and this somehow managed to open something in her. Now she wonders if she'll be able to do the same. It looks like we're out of the mean girl trope. Love it. Meanwhile, Ivona is now walking together with Lady Pemgrin, who helped her hide from Lady Selton, and they begin talking about summoning magic, something the lady is interested in. One morning, when Ivona gets ready to leave, her father stops her and tells her that he should be included in all of the preparation with the Duke. We all know he'll just try to use the Duke, so Ivona firmly declines, resulting in an argument. Her father flinches, unable to hit her. He sees something has changed in her, and Ivona tells him to forget her as she walks away. She is now at the Duke's residence, and she informs him that she'll be leaving her family and her father will not be attending their wedding. The Duke senses something has happened but did not pry, and simply asks her for her plan. Since Ivona doesn't have a place to stay, the Duke decides to bring her to the best and most famous hotel. It amazes her how beautiful the hotel is. The hotel personnel are shocked to learn who they are, so they give them the Emperor's suite to stay in. Later that night, as she is eating her dinner, Ivona can sense something is wrong because all the servants are attentive to her. The chef even worries if she likes the food. And as she wanders through the hotel, she finds it strange that she has not encountered a single guest. The staff even redecorated the interior to her preferences. Little did she know that the Duke had planned to buy the entire hotel for her and instructed the hotel staff to keep it a secret. He really wants her to be comfortable in any way. Gosh, where can I find a guy like him? On their wedding day, while waiting for Ivona, Stefan comments on how good the Duke looks in his new suit. Are you kidding? Slicked back hair and a white and blue suit? Stefan needs a raise. Meanwhile, Ivona's carriage arrives, and as he opens the door for her, he is astounded to see his gorgeous wife in her wedding dress. Pretty? Okay, the designer needs a raise as well. The Duke is still in a trance, so Ivona had to call him several times before he answered. He still can't believe how beautiful his bride is, and as they make their way to the church, can't help but stare at his bride in awe again and again. Ivana assumes that his strange behavior is because he's tired and proceeds to tell her groom that he looks beautiful too. They both look perfect as they walk along the aisle. The emperor himself executed the ceremony for them, surprising the people. The Duke feels more nervous when Ivana asks him if he brought the hotel where she stayed, and when the emperor asked the pledge, the Duke sincerely answered yes. Meanwhile, Ivana feels like this is all a dream. She met a tragic end in her previous life and vowed she would never let herself become close to another person again. But here she is again with Claude Argentine, and perhaps she can put her trust in him, and so wholeheartedly she answers, "I do." And they kiss as husband and wife. They prepare to leave after the ceremony, unaware that from afar, Tristan, Gospal, and a mysterious lady are watching them. When they reach the palace of Agentine, Ivana feels exhausted after a long journey and lays on a bed when one of her maids asks her if she's ready. Of course, they have to act all lovey-dovey or else everyone will get suspicious. So that night, she went to the Duke's room. Shy to show her nightgown, she wraps herself with the blanket as she lays down on the bed. The Duke gets closer to her. And it's not what you think, guys. He simply arranges her blanket. She then notices the food and wine beside the bed and asks him if she can eat some. And since she's all wrapped up, the Duke feeds her himself. This is too cute. She laughs because she thinks sometimes the Duke is adorably strange. The Duke then requests that she call him by his name and asks if he can do the same to her as well. For a moment, they feel awkward, but Ivana complies and calls his name for the first time. And he answers back, calling her name too. The progress. While she sleeps, the Duke stares at her and tucks her blanket in as he says goodnight. As she wakes up, Ivana notices that the bolster is no longer soft and realizes that she's embracing the Duke while she sleeps. It appears that someone was unable to sleep. Ivana and the Duke are both tense during breakfast. The chef even wonders if there's something wrong with the food, but they just eat silently. Now, Stefan and the servants feel something strange is happening with the two. Before the Duke leaves, he tries to touch her earrings to remind her that she can contact him if anything happens. They still feel awkward about what happened the night before, and she just wishes to sleep in her own room. Unlike them, newlyweds normally do not leave their rooms after the wedding, and so the servants discuss the rumors that the Duke doesn't care about her. Sally, her personal maid, cheerfully greets her and thanks her for bringing her to the north. Just then, the head maid introduces herself to her and tours Ivana around the palace. As they are walking, the head maid plans to test her to see if she really can honor the Argentine's name. When Ivana remarks that the castle's really old, the maid points out that she can change the interiors in any way she wants. But to her surprise, Ivana declines, saying it is fine as it is. Ivana then visits the workers, asking about their problems and complimenting them on their work. The head maid tries to dissuade her from going to see the folks, but Ivana explains that she wants to get to know them and that she doesn't want to think of them as servants. And with a smile, Ivana thanked her for her hard work as well. The head maid is confused, as this contradicts what Sally told them about Ivana. The head maid suggests that Ivana should take a rest since she seems tired from the day's activities. She recalls her parents' relationship. They may share the same roof, but they never speak to each other, and she swears hers will not be the same, so she waits for the Duke. The Duke arrives earlier than expected, which causes her to panic a little, but they both blush when they greet each other. Now that she has her own room, she notices that someone has put in a magical tool to keep her warm, as she is not used to the temperature in the north. We all know who. She's all excited as the Duke gives her permission to use the Kiridan fruit, and while preparing, Stefan informs her that the journey would be long, so the head of knights will accompany them, which is a direct order from the Duke since he will not be able to join them. When they reach the farm, the Kiridan fruits are all ready to be loaded onto their carriage. While everybody is busy, Ivana got the chance to ask questions about why the Kiridan fruit only grows in the north, and about the ancient kingdom. but no one could give her the answer she wants, so she thought maybe it would be best if she asked the Duke about it. On their way home, the carriage suddenly stops because of an accident. They cannot get through it, and Stefan feels something strange within the area. So Ivona suggests to the head knight that they should go back quickly. He explains to Ivona that the mountain path is full of obstacles, and there was a beast report recently. It will be a difficult way home, but there's no other choice, so they go on as planned. It is already dark on their way, and Stefan keeps trembling more and more. He is getting worse than before when he feels something strange is now coming from all directions. They are all surprised when the great beast Molongo shows up and starts attacking them. Ivona had already seen and fought in her previous life. They are all baffled as to how it ends up in the forest, since it is not a native species. It's a good thing that the head of the knights is with them. He instructs her to stay inside the carriage while they fight the beast. The rest of the knights fight it with everything they've got. The beast, however, is as tough as steel, and their blade is about to snap from attacking it, until they manage to find its weak spot and strike its eyes. For a while, they thought that's it, but out of nowhere, more and more great beasts came out. They fight here and there. It's like it's never ending. They then lure the beast away from the carriage to protect Ivona, and while fighting, the beast manages to shatter the cliff, resulting in their certain deaths. I think we're forgetting something here. We have Ivona the Summoner. Just as they're falling, the divine beast Shinso catches them using ice magic and joins them in fighting. All the knights were surprised when Shinso displayed his magic and froze all of the beasts. Summoning her beast really takes a toll on her body. She then instructs Stefan to find it. After Stefan rushes to the forest, she suddenly collapses and is in pain as she is already at her limit. She tries to get out, but stumbles when the red-haired man appears. Ivona is alarmed to see him again, but he assures her that he has just come to help. While all of the knights are busy checking their situation, she rushes to the forest where Stefan goes. Stefan explained to her while they were still in the carriage that since Molongo is not a naturally born beast, this could simply mean that someone used magic or a core from a sacrifice to summon it. To be able to summon Molongo using a core, one must sacrifice a large number of lives. He already has the core in his hand when Ivona finds him in the forest. And the reason why he's acting all strange is because his suspicion is correct. The sacrifice used is of his tribe, the Tigray tribe. They are known for their gemstone-like eyes, so a lot yearns for them. Stefan believes that the attacks were done by a hunting group. All of the servants gladly welcome her when they arrive, but when she's about to walk out of the carriage, her body can no longer withstand the strain, and she collapses. Note that our girl just defeated most of the Molongos on her own. Fortunately, the Duke is there to catch Ivona before she hits the ground. As he carries Ivona, he puts his face close to hers to take her temperature, increasing the redness on her face. Can't really tell if she just has a fever or is blushing. The Duke is so worried about her that he constantly checks in on her while she sleeps. At the library, Stefan and the head of the knights shudder at the Duke's outrage and demand a report on what happened to his wife. Just then, the red-haired man interrupts and explains the situation, concluding that the auction is linked to the evil core they discovered. The Duke gives the order to increase security and investigate the matter further. When Ivona wakes up, the first thing she remembers is being carried by the Duke. Same girl, same. She didn't even notice the Duke sitting there staring at her. They then discuss what happened, and the Duke unexpectedly expresses his concern for her. Seeing his worried face, she quickly apologizes. Ivona then takes the opportunity to ask him a few things regarding the ancient ruins and the Círdan fruit, then plans on finding an alchemist to help create the potion. She also asks about the knight in the white uniform, and the Duke informs her that he is part of the Royal Knights, Bardrin. She trembles upon hearing the name, as she remembers that in her past life, Bardrin was known as the Summoning Hunter. Ivona recalls that in her past life, the people who summoned the demon army to the realm of mankind were human summoners. Because of their frustration, the people wanted all summoners executed except those who were well known, and Bardrin was the knight who slaughtered hundreds of them. Ivona thinks that although all of those are not yet happening, he already seems to have a negative attitude towards summoners. The Duke becomes concerned again when he notices Ivona's reaction, but she continues on asking why a holy knight like Bardran is here, and he explains that they are exchanging information. He then makes her recall the bombing incident and informs her that the terrorists who planted the explosives were all caught, but all died in a strange way. They believe that there is a connection between the auction house and terrorism. Ivona wants to be a part of the investigation because, as the Duchess, she feels responsible for the people of Agentine. He declines since she is still recovering, but eventually gives in. Our girl is persistent, but they will have to do it together. While getting some fresh air, Bardran approaches her and mentions that he is Lillian Famegreen's cousin. He talks about how much his cousin really likes her, but warns her to keep her distance since she's a summoner. Surprised by what he said, she asks him why he dislikes summoners. He then explains bluntly that he can't trust their powers. Bardran wants her to stay out of the auction house operation and adds that it is dangerous. Ivona is left alone and is still thinking about Lady Famegreen. She remembers how interested the lady is in summoning magic and plans to help her, but she worries that this could end up hurting the lady in the end because of Bardran. She almost gave in to her emotions, but not anymore, and she won't sit back when that happens. Meanwhile, at the auction house, the chief in charge is happy for the good results of the business, when suddenly, a mysterious lady appears, strangles him without using hands, and notifies him that the Molongos he let loose attacked the Duchess. While catching his breath, he explained that he only followed her orders to get rid of the wagons carrying Círdan fruits and has no idea that the Duchess is there. She coldly states that if the Duke really does love his wife, as the rumors suggest, he may intervene in the auction business. She then gives him another core in case they come. Before going to the auction, the Duke and the head of the Knights brief Ivona about the auction house and that they need to stand out to be able to meet the auction's chief. When they enter, the Duke feels it's also a good time since he wants to give her gifts. She tries to explain that she has enough and nearly messes up calling his real name. They start calling each other by endearment to avoid getting caught, and both like it. And so the auction starts. The auctioneer shows the first item, and the nobles start bidding. However, one jewelry collector stands out more than them. So the Duke starts bidding as well. From 20 million to 30 million and up to 40 million gold, he outbids the jewelry collector every time and in every item, while Bardran is having fun witnessing this. They are really standing out now. Meanwhile, Ivona worries as the Duke keeps buying everything. And to his defense, these are his gifts for her and he simply forgot about the prize. My husband. Oh, sorry, Ivona's, I mean. Then the auctioneer shows the last item and explains that it can absorb magic. But people are not interested in it since it's out of trend. However, not Ivona. The Duke notices how her reaction changes and asks if she's okay. She is confused as to why her mother's brooch is being auctioned off. Her mother's brooch has been passed down through the family for generations. Her mother takes very good care of it, careful enough not to wear it, so it really puzzles her why she sold it or what happened to her. The Duke then holds her hand and asks if there's anything wrong with the brooch, to which she responds that it is something important to her. And without hesitation, the Duke bids the highest for the brooch, which shocks everyone. But the jewelry collector won't stop competing with the Duke until they reach 70 million. Ivona whispers that the price is too high, but the Duke doesn't care because for the first time, his wife actually wants something. He smiles, then bids 100 million gold. Everyone is shook. Even Bardran can't believe it. The Duke then whispers back to her, reminding her who her husband is, which makes Ivona fluster. After the auction ends, the Duke hands Ivona the brooch, and she reveals that it belonged to her mother. The Duke suggests that if she wants to trace who sold the brooch, but Ivona declines. She doesn't want to meet her mother. She is afraid that her mother has forgotten about her and will treat her like a stranger. She sounds teary when saying those things, so the Duke tries to comfort her and hugs her, saying he understands. Suddenly, the chief meets them and suggests if they want to see their special item, which they agree on and proceed to the auction's house hidden location. Ivona and the Duke are dismayed as the auction head shows the Tigray tribe's jewel eyes. She's trying to hide her anger. They act as if they don't know anything, then proceed to ask questions, making the auction head provide further evidence that everything they are seeing is real. They make him believe that they're all just cautious, acting all lovey-dovey. This frustrates the auction head, so he shows them his prisoner as the real evidence. The prisoner is all chained up and bleeding when Ivona hears him begging her to end his suffering. After he's done convincing the couple, he starts to discuss the payment when Barjan shows up, already holding the items with him. This causes him to panic and accuse them of being thieves. Ivona quickly summons the divine beast to capture the auction head, but to their surprise, he uses magic and calls his bugs. Good thing Ivona's divine beast can create a barrier, keeping them all safe since it's hard for them to fight it using swords. Just then, they hear voices of children locked up. Barjan tries to save them, but it is locked with magic, while the bugs keep coming from nowhere. They almost get him when Ivona quickly summons Hazlat to help. The children thank her for saving them, while Barjan can barely speak. Can't trust a summoner who? Lastly, the Duke uses his holy sword to finish all the bugs. Couple goals. They successfully completed their operation, and the authorities captured all the people involved in the auction house. Before Barjan leaves, he thanks Ivona for saving him and asks if she wants to take credit for the operation. He's taken aback when she says she expects nothing in return, making him bow his head and apologize for how he acted before. He's treating her with respect now, which stuns Ivona and realizes that it is possible to change the future. Stefan informs Ivona that the auction head and the abducted children died the same way as the terrorist incident before. They then learned that an unknown person supported Adolf and was responsible for the magic core and illegal auction house activities. Ivona thinks the person might be related to the demon army summoner. Stefan then shares that they were able to do their ritual and burn the eyes of his tribe. He notices Ivona's concern about the situation and can't help but show his gratitude to her. Then the Tigray tribe survivor introduces himself as Ferin, and his family is from the ancient times. Upon hearing this, Ivona asks him about Círdan fruit. He then explains all he knows about the fruit and that the ancient kingdom has a magical core called Pillar of Iron Ore, which can give powerful magic. This interests Ivona, but he warns that the pillar is dangerous, and he's willing to create a reagent as an alternative. Meanwhile, the mysterious lady smiles and thinks Ivona is not only protected by the holy sword. At the Agentine palace, Ferin begins research on the Círdan potion, and Ivona feels lucky to meet him, and soon she will be able to summon the divine beast king. Ferin finishes the potion after a week, but there is a waiting period before it becomes effective. Waiting 8 months is not an option for her, since the Demon King is already coming, and it may be too late by then. Looking at her worried face, they ask why she needs to raise her mana instantly. Ivona reassures them and thanks them for their efforts. Ferin, on the other hand, is eager to assist her and addresses Ivona by name without realizing she is the Duchess, causing Stefan to panic. At that moment, the Duke appears and sternly warns him to address his wife properly. While drinking tea together, the Duke ponders how the people in the palace have come to trust Ivona in such a short period of time. Though he is relieved that everyone now accepts her, this concerns him. Possessive much? Ivona then asks the Duke about the ancient rune, and asks for his permission to go there and conduct her research, as it may be related to the Círdan fruit and maybe it can help her mana. This worries the Duke, but he never questions her and decides that they will go together. Inside Ivona's room, Sally and Matilda are debating what clothing to pack for the Duchess. Ivona notices Sally's strange attitude lately and thinks there is something wrong. Ivona and the Duke arrive at the ancient ruins. While they are walking, Ivona mentions why no one addresses him by his first name. He then shares that, other than her, no one else calls him by name, and that even his parents only address him by his title. He then tells her that she's the person he trusts the most, which makes her flutter. When they enter the palace, she senses the flow of mana, and then Claude informs her that he did not see the pillars when he visited the place when he was 6 years old. Ivona, curious as to why a young duke would go to such a dangerous place, asks for his reason before gargoyles attack them. She then summons her divine beast, but more gargoyles keep on coming, and this time she fights without using too much mana to prevent herself from fainting again. Seeing how well Ivona can fight, the Duke realizes that she has a lot of hands-on experience. With their powers together, all the gargoyles are down. As they are walking again, she feels like he was about to mention something about his family before they got attacked. She doesn't know much about his family other than the fact that they passed away. During the night, they set a campfire and prepared their dinner. While eating, the Duke notices how sleepy Ivona is and suggests that she rest first. Ivona asks the Duke to sleep as well, but he insists on being on guard. When she's about to go to sleep, she thinks back on the Duke's kindness and the times he has helped her in the past. The Duke sees that Ivona has fallen asleep and asks Hazlet to return so Ivona can sleep soundly and reassured the beast that he'll keep his master safe. He then goes off to fight the high-level magic soldiers alone. It's already morning when Ivona wakes up, and she immediately worries if anything has happened. Then she asks Claude if he was up all night, but when she sees him, the Duke is looking all fresh as if he hadn't fought the night before. They then continue their search and enter a hall full of gold-armored knights, who start attacking them. They are surrounded and outnumbered, so instead of restraining her powers, she summoned all 3 divine beasts. But even with the beasts' help, no matter how many times they break them, the knights keep coming back. Ivona tries to find his weakness and breaks all the lights when suddenly the armored knight stops moving. The light makes them move. Genius! Now her next problem is that it's dark and she can't see clearly, but the Duke claims to have good eyesight and single-handedly carries Ivona. Double genius. Even the divine beasts are flustered by this. They then reach the place where the Pillar of Iron Ore stands. The Duke warns that there's something strange with the mana, so they have to be careful when Ivona walks off and touches it. She feels the huge amount of mana inside it, when suddenly it shows her the pillar's memories and gives out a warning to whoever desires it. Only destruction awaits. She understands what it means, but she needs the power to stop the Demon King. No, scratch that. To make Gospal and Tristan's lives miserable. After saying those in her mind, the pillar suddenly glows, decreasing her mana. The Duke tries to stop it and attacks it with his sword, but his powers have no effect on it. He panics and runs towards Ivona, shouting her name, when suddenly, the pillar shows him his true feelings, how unhappy he is with all of his achievements, and how that changes when he meets Ivona. He wants nothing but her happiness. The pillar seems to be testing him as it asks for his true desires and then reveals his greatest fear by showing him a future without Ivona. He sees people cheering for him and saving the world, but that doesn't make him happy because the person he wants to protect the most and who means the most to him is Ivona. He somehow snaps out of it, but dark energy is now radiating out of him. He approaches the pillar, touches it, and it disappears, then carries Ivona out. Even the Duke can't explain what power he just released. Ivona wakes up, and the Duke explains that the pillar disappeared. While they are walking, Ivona worries that her mana has been taken when suddenly, Claude disappears. It looks like they are inside of an illusion magic. It shows her past life when Gospal was using her, but seeing that did not hurt her anymore. Instead, makes her even more determined. Meanwhile, Claude is inside the illusion as well, showing him memories he doesn't want to remember. Claude, a 12-year-old boy, was covered in bandages as a result of killing an intermediate monster, but his mother forced him to wield the holy sword. When he failed, his mother cursed him and told him to keep trying. This is all because of a prophecy given to the Agentine family. His mother was barely 16 when she was forced to marry an aristocrat and bears a son. She dedicated her life to making sure her son would carry the name Master of the Holy Sword. When he was 16, his sick mother commanded him to go to the ancient runes alone to prove he was the prophecy. He was badly hurt in the runes, and when he tried to ask for help, he remembered that no one would help him. Suddenly, he hears Ivona and wakes up. She explains that he got trapped in an illusion, but she notices the scar he has when the Duke sits up and decides to share his story with her. The Duke concludes his story with his mother, who wishes for him to become the master of the sword and wants to be known as the mother of the savior, even on her deathbed. Ivona thinks to herself as she touches his scar that he must have been seriously hurt. His powers come with divine magic, and therefore his magic resistance should be high, yet he is vulnerable to illusion magic. She's pondering, so she didn't realize she'd been holding his chest for a long time, making her blush. She apologizes, and he tells her that they are married, so she can touch him however she likes. No comment, LOL. The Duke insists on sleeping, and so as her final resort to convince him, she hugs the Duke, making them both fall into bed. Our boy can't help but snuggle closer to her before drifting off to sleep. While he sleeps, she considers that, in addition to fixing her twisted life and stopping the Demon King, she should not let Claude bear his heavy fate alone, and she prays for the days when he can sleep soundly. You're in love. The next day, they finally find a pillar, but this time she's confident she can do it. The Duke is concerned about her safety, but he trusts her and assures her he'll be waiting when she's done. She approaches the pillar, recalling the overwhelming feeling she felt the first time, but she is now determined to overcome them all. Inside the illusion magic, Ivona sees greedy people fighting for power, and she knows that she's being tested, that those who want power were all swept by negative emotions, forcing them to give up. Next, she sees herself in a theater stage being belittled by Gospal, but this delusion doesn't disturb her. Then, Tristan's image appears, telling her to be happy together, which means that once she has Gospal's baby, who would look like the three of them, they will become a family. But that is just disgusting and is not her reality anymore. She even sees her younger self crying and terrified of her father's anger and flinches when it shows her fear about Claude abandoning her, since they are only in a contractual marriage. The illusion plays on her pain, showing her the people she loves who ended up hurting her. Then he tries to manipulate her into thinking that Claude's kindness is all an act and that she'll end up getting hurt again. She stands up and tells the illusion how much she's willing to believe in Claude, and his actions show it all. He makes her feel valued and respected, and now she wants to treasure and protect him as well. But to fight along with him, she needs power and refuses to let her fear get in the way. At that moment, she completed the pillar's test, and a flash of light hit her. When she wakes up, they are outside the ruins, and Claude is there holding her. When Ivona finally opens her eyes, she finds herself in a room and sees the Duke writing something. She smiles, thinking that any life will fit him, even if he's not the Holy Sword Master. The Duke notices her staring and checks how she feels. Ivona feels fine. Then Claude informs her that she's been sleeping for 3 days, and because he's worried, he let her sleep in his bedroom/office. She notices a pile of papers on the table, indicating that he's been working for days. So she asks him if he also rested, and even though he answered yes, she doesn't believe him. She lets him know that she doesn't understand why no one is stopping him from working, and even offers to help. With a grin on his face, he tells her that she's the only person who thinks he needs a break. She can only sigh and beg him not to overwork because anyone gets fatigued without breaks. The Duke changes the subject and says he hopes she won't do something dangerous again now that she has more power. But she can't answer since she's thinking of the Demon King. He notices her confused face and rephrases his words, telling her that if she needs to do something dangerous, she should do it from where he can see her. And to avoid misunderstandings, he didn't forget to tell her that it's not an order, but a request. She agrees with him, and he advises her to sleep more, which makes her blush, thinking he is concerned about her. Since he doesn't want to sleep, she tries to persuade him to rest and simply close his eyes. And to her surprise, he lies next to her, staring, wondering if she's really alive after sleeping for days. She feels embarrassed, so she turns her face to the opposite side. While she sleeps, the Duke claims he knew her before they met because she appears in his dreams. It's too real for him to be a dream, but the memories don't make sense enough to be reality. When the Duke tries to wield the holy sword, it refuses him. Following what happened in the ruins, it has been rejecting him, and the sword's reaction is not the same when he tries to hold it as when he was a kid. The next day, Ivona goes to a remote and desolate place in order to summon the Phoenix King, a fabled creature of enormous power. Thanks to the pillar, she now has enough mana in her. She then gets ready to summon her powerful beast, and voila! She welcomes Lord Lucius, a big creature that can actually speak. She requests him to shrink, and poof! A cutie little chubby Lucius appears. She informs him that it is still a secret that she can summon him, so no one should know. He notices that she is healthier, and she tells him that this is because they returned to the past. He then let her know that the contract he made with her became thin, and he thinks someone intentionally turned back time, so it's not a miracle that she returned to the past when she died. She wonders if the demon army, which failed to restore the Demon King, can twist time and space. Ivona worries that the person with the power to turn back time has a reason and could be far more dangerous. But for now, they need to prepare for what they already know, to stop the Demon King from resurrecting. Our cute little Lucius can't believe what he's hearing, and he thinks she married Gospal. She laughs as she remembers that even in the past, Lucius never liked Gospal, and happily informs him that she's married to our ever-loving, beautiful man, Claude Agentine, although contractually. Ivona has spilled the beans on him, and he is now raging red while summarizing how evil Gospal and Tristan are and planning to kill them both. Okay, the bench is now on fire, but Ivona calms him down, telling him that taking their lives is too easy. Thinking how much she suffers, she wants to take her sweet revenge, which Lucius approves. Now that he feels relieved, he then asks how she ended up marrying the cold-looking Duke. She explains how the Duke helped her escape marriage to Gospal, and even helped her go to the ancient ruins to get enough mana to summon him. Lucius is somehow overprotective and still finds the Duke suspicious, so he decides to stay with her until he's convinced that he's not dangerous. When they get back to the mansion, she receives a letter from the Crown Princess. She can't believe the Crown Princess actually sent her a letter, and she discovers Lady Pemgrin also sent her one, disclosing that she has begun learning summoning magic thanks to her. For days, she has been eating rice porridge only, and Claude, being a considerate husband, has been doing the same as well, which Ivona appreciates. Well, Lucius is still doubting his goodness and gives him a glare. So protective and cute. Stefan disturbs their meal to inform the Duke of their sudden meeting because of the recent reports of an epidemic spreading. Ivona and Lucius recall this from the past, when the demon army used the pandemic to aid in the ascension of the Demon King. However, the timing is too early. She decides to join the meeting and receives glares from the members of the Agentine family. Even as they take their seats, all eyes are on her, and they wonder why the Duke chose her. They still refuse to accept her as a member of the Agentine. The nobles start their report regarding the disease and are surprised when Ivona joins the conversation and starts to ask questions. When she asks for information on whether the victims have bug bite marks, Bennett of the nobles yells at her, losing patience, and tells her that the North has no bugs. He quickly receives a death glare from the Duke and switches his attention to his wife. There's a possibility it could be from bugs or other animals, so she intends to visit the isolated area herself. The whole empire has what they call the Statue of Purification, which temple priests chant blessing spells on for days until it becomes blessed, allowing them to ward against disease wherever they are placed. Ivona goes to the quarantine village of Eldarin, where, according to the report, the said statue has been built, but for whatever reason is not working. But not to worry. Bardrin is there to escort her visit. The people are surprised to see the Duchess put her life at risk to investigate the spreading disease. Ivona then approaches them and asks for permission to check their bodies, discovering that everyone has a bug bite. Lucius detects black magic in their bites and confirms that the Statue of Purification is wrapped with strong black magic, which is why it's not helping the people. Even Bardrin notices the black magic on it. Bardrin and Ivona decide to head back, and she promises herself that this time she'll find a way to solve the pandemic. The Duke receives the news about the statue's power not working, while Bardrin goes to the temple to report the same. After that, Ivona goes to the Agintine's library in search of books related to the oncoming epidemic. As she is scrolling around, Claude shows up and helps her find the books she wants. He also finds out that Ivona is trying to study past outbreaks and their cures. The people's treatment is under the temple's responsibility, and she knows that looking for a cure on her own could be seen as blasphemy. But to her surprise, Claude agrees with her. We all want a supportive husband. Claude shows her the books that might be useful, and once they've gathered enough books, Ivona asks whether Stefan, and especially Ferenc, can assist them as well. Of course he agrees, and when the two show up, he gives our poor boy Ferenc the evil eye. Someone's holding a grudge out of jealousy. Such a cutie. While the three begin their research, the Duke, not wanting to be left out, brings his paperwork to the library as well, and from time to time gets upset when the boys act too friendly with Ivona, which Lucius notices. After hours of relentless reading, they come across an article that is identical to the present epidemic. It is called Kurl's disease, and it first arose in a tiny town many years ago, but did not become a huge issue because it was not contagious. However, it is currently spreading fast because of bugs, hinting that someone is doing it on purpose. They discover several studies on the treatment and attempt to connect them all in order to create a full antidote. But what concerns her now is the temple's opposition to her research. Claude realizes this and encourages her not to worry and to continue developing it. The next day, Stefan reports that the necessary herbs are not available in bulk in the market. Well, say that again after Ivona summons our cute pink-furred winged cat and instantly grows the said essential herbs. Even Lucius is impressed. The Emperor has heard that there are fewer cases in the north and that they have made their own medicine from herbs. What surprises him even more is the fact that Duchess Ivona developed it herself. He finds out that Ivona uses her summoning to grow the herbs needed for the medicine, and he receives full instructions on how to make it. The Emperor then issues an order to have his own summoners, including Gospal, the so-called Golden Summoner, gather to produce the herbs. He sweats as he tries to come up with an excuse not to be included. However, the royal messenger emphasizes that the Emperor has specifically ordered him to cooperate. Still looking for a way out, he questions the authenticity of the said cure and asks who developed it, and, surprise bee, it's Duchess Ivona. Gospal believes Ivona will simply grieve over their breakup, but now he believes the report that she's getting along with her husband and now has created a medicine. The attendant informs him that Ivona is able to grow herbs for all the patients in the north and asks if he can also produce enough herbs for the central region. He mumbles nervously and confirms he can, while the attendant takes his word for it and leaves. Gospal destroys everything in his room and blames Ivona. He has yet to find a replacement for her, which is why he is confined in his castle, pretending to be unwell. He realizes that he wouldn't be in this mess if Tristan hadn't planned to manipulate Ivona and use her skills as his own. He storms into Tristan's place, tells him what happened, and they both try to come up with a solution. Gospal suggests buying the herbs from other countries in secret, which Tristan thinks is a very risky idea, causing Gospal to panic and begin blaming him. Just then, Tristan discovers a way to have the temple declare that the medicine is not usable. Gospal hesitates because this will undoubtedly harm the affected people, but Tristan convinces him that it is for the best and for the sake of their secret. Back in the north, Ivona receives good news that people are starting to feel better because of the medicine, while the Duke is preparing to meet the temple's chief priest, Kurta, who has arrived in their kingdom. Ivona wants to help him with his meeting, but Claude wants her to trust him and go alone. The temple receives a letter, which Kurta reads instead of forwarding it to the high priest, stating that the high priest is too busy making statues and that they must deal with minor things themselves. He then reads a letter from Gospal outlining the temple's current problems, all because of the cure the Agentine kingdom has developed. The owner of the Holy Sword, Claude, belongs to the temple, and Kurta cannot allow him to continue disobeying their deity. So he views Ivona as a witch who tempts Claude away from their religion and wants to put a stop to her evil ways so that Claude might return to his faith. He confronts the Duke, warning him that life and death are in God's hands and that the cure they developed is inexcusable. While sipping tea, Claude gives the blame back to the temple for not managing the statues properly and orders him to return, reminding him that he has no right to meddle in whatever is going on in the north. The priest claims he is seriously disturbed, and this is all because of his wife. He yells at the Duke, ordering him to ask forgiveness as he has sinned, and is about to insult Ivona when the holy sword is hurled exactly next to him, trimming a part of his hair and breaking his glasses. Nothing serious, really. The Duke warns him not to speak ill of Ivona, or he will become the temple's enemy without hesitation, which makes the priest run away in fear. Talk all you want, but his wife? You fool. It looks like Gospal has not sent any herbs yet and is said to be sick with the infectious disease, which of course the Emperor thinks is nonsense. Seher's, the crown princess, visits the Emperor's office and hears that her cousin Gospal has contracted the disease. She thinks something is strange because even she, who is weak, is fine, so she doesn't understand how he got sick. They think Gospal has become weaker, and so the princess decides to personally visit him. She worries about him, but hopes that even in his state, he'll produce a lot of medicinal herbs that can help the people. She then receives greetings from Tristan, whom she believes has a close relationship with her cousin because he visits knowing Gospal is infected. Oh, looks like our princess is smelling something. She then shows them the golden chalice, which is only meant for the royal family, but she will allow him to use it. It's a national treasure that can heal you overnight. These two are screwed big time. She wants him to start growing the herbs tomorrow, but Gospal admits that he can't grow them as well as Ivona. When Seher's asks how much he can produce, Tristan answers her in his stead. Again, she finds them strange, and the fact that Tristan is answering her question makes it look like he's the one who'll do the summoning. Princess has the gaydar and the lidar. And before she leaves, she warns that he needs to make sure he'll make a big contribution since the Emperor is really angry. They are getting grilled for real. The Crown Princess reports back to the Emperor, and the news disappoints the Emperor. Seher stresses out how great the Duchess is as a summoner to their golden summoner Gospal, who keeps making excuses. Now, the Emperor is having doubts about giving the throne to Gospal as his successor. The princess tries to lighten up the mood and shares her own development with the herbs. She has already gathered enough summoners and is now preparing for the manufacturing stage. Ivona sent her advice, and Lady Selton is cooperating as well. Lady Selton's intelligence comes as a pleasant surprise and helps the princess with her transactions that are hard for her to reach. Looks like the previous encounter with Ivona helped change Lady Selton's heart. The Emperor is glad with her progress but feels ashamed to have her fix the problem herself, until the Crown Princess walks up to the throne while telling her father not to be sorry, as she is ready to accept responsibility for the Empire. What's with all this girl power? Loving it. Back in the Agentine's kingdom, Ivona receives a letter from Seher's, sharing the progress that they have made, adding that Gospal promises to bring 1/5 of the amount of herbs she has grown. But the princess doubts it and decides to wait and see. Ivona giggles, thinking about how quick-witted the princess is, and envisions her as the first woman to be crowned in the Parama Empire. Now that enough medicine has been made, Ivona is thinking of sending it to other locations. However, she does not want to steal the spotlight from the other summoners who have contributed to the creation of the treatment. She's simply glad people now have better views on summoners, and so she decides to close the case. Now the couple is finally feeling relaxed, especially Ivona, and she couldn't help but think about how worried Claude has been about her the entire time she's been working on the cure. He makes excuses just so they can eat together, but eventually gets kicked out by Ivona since he keeps waiting for her and she knows he has his own work to do. In the end, the Duke gives up but wants her to prioritize her health since he hates it when she's sick. Aww. When Stefan runs into them in the hall, he suggests they take a vacation now that things have calmed down about the pandemic. Stefan got the couple to agree to take a break and go on a trip, and just like that, they arrive in the Ventira Kingdom. The kingdom even throws a welcome ceremony for them, and everyone celebrates as they arrive, which surprises them both. Claude recalls saving the prince of the Ventira kingdom, earning him the title of hero among the people. Even if he didn't, Ivona is confident that his good looks would make him stand out. He finds it so endearing that he wants to keep hearing them, making Ivona blush. They finally make it to the mansion, where Stefan and a handful of the servants they brought along await them. Ivona then asks Claude for a walk, but first she gives Stefan money to divide with the other servants and orders them to enjoy themselves as well. Stefan bows, thanking the Duchess for her generosity, and warns that they will most likely be swarmed by people when they go out. But don't worry, Claude has everything all figured out. They can use Stefan's metamorphosis to conceal their true identities. The Duke then smoothly compliments his wife, saying that even in disguise, people might keep staring at her because of her beauty. Feeling embarrassed, she turns to Stefan quickly and requests that he alter her hair to gold and her eyes to green. She now has a foreign appearance, while the Duke asks for brown hair and blue-gray eyes, both of which his wife possesses. Ivona suddenly changes her mind and goes for the features Claude has, and the two happily go on their date, leaving our poor boy Stefan feeling lonely. While on their walk, Lucius keeps glancing at the two and decides to leave, probably because he now trusts Claude. Third wheeling is not all that great, LOL. Now that Lucius isn't there to keep an eye on them, Claude is relieved that they may enjoy their walk at their leisure. They change into much more comfy attire when Ivona sees that Claude is still wearing his gloves. She recalls that this has always been the case and assumes it has something to do with the hardship he went through with his mom and the Holy Sword. She holds his hands and removes his gloves in hopes that he will relax when he is with her, which he gladly does. And since it is their first vacation, they just decide to roam aimlessly while holding hands. Cute. They visit a lot of stores and eat some street food until drunk men bump into her and start checking her out. But before she can react, they are gone, including Claude. It appears that Claude has already put them to sleep, and as they continue with their date, she can't help but think that Claude will be the one constant in her life. They come upon a racetrack contest where they stake money, and Ivona decides that they should play as well, but instead of money, whoever picks the winning horse will be granted a wish. Claude thinks this is a good idea, and Ivona notices how happy he looks. In an effort to grant his wish, she bets on a horse with a shaky track record, hoping that Claude will win, but in the end, she wins. Claude congratulates her and asks what she wants, but Ivona can see from his expression that he was never planning to win. But because our cute boy here innocently denies it, she's forced to make a wish, which makes Claude smile. They then enter a glass shop, where she finds glass crafts that resemble her summons. Haslat, her fluffy comforter, our ever-adorable Charlotte, and she even finds a Lucius-like figurine. She's still missing one when Claude realizes what she's looking for and gives her a figurine that matches Asla. He then adds that he appreciates the help of her summons, which moves Ivona, and she responds by letting him know that he too is a source of strength for her. To finish their day, they watch a romantic play, and Ivona notices how the performers are so affectionate and honest with their feelings, which she can't. But what surprises her even more is the kiss in the end. She is too embarrassed to look at the actors on stage, and she sees that no one else in the audience feels the same way as her. The play concludes with the actors marrying after a week, and then she recalls that she had actually proposed to Claude the day they met and remembers that their contract is only good for 1 year, and how they agreed to decide what happens to them after the year. Now she thinks she might actually be in love with him and wonders how Claude feels. They are now back at the vacation place and planning to take a sweet dip in the famous hot spring. The attendant, however, informs them that it is a couple's bath specially prepared for them and ordered by Stefan. They try to find a different hot spring, but none are available because they are being used by other clients. Since they have no choice, Claude invites her, telling her they can at least dip in the water up to their knees. Thankfully, Ivona agrees, and they are now happily soaking their feet. Claude is concerned about her leg because they have been walking all day and decides to massage it for her. Claude scares her by saying that it could cause muscle pain, and that would make their busy day tomorrow much more difficult. Afraid of having muscle pain, she shyly agrees, and he goes to massage her shoulder first, then her feet. She thanks him for granting her wish, but for him, his actions do not count as a wish, claiming it's just what husbands do. And so, she then changes her wish and wants their contract to end, wanting them to become more official gradually, to which the Duke gladly agrees. And by gradually, Claude asks her what her limit is for the day, and she asks him for a kiss. Claude gladly follows her wish, and they kiss! Ah! She then suddenly feels dizzy, pushing Claude away. She is just surprised at how experienced Claude is. He backs away, afraid that he is making her uncomfortable. He can't even hear Ivona calling him. He is so into his thoughts, overthinking that she might be afraid of him now, as he couldn't control himself earlier. Ivona hugs him, assuring him she doesn't hate it at all, and even asks for one more. Gosh, these two! The two kiss again, with Ivona thanking him for fulfilling her true wish. But again, Claude does not regard this as a wish. The next day on their picnic, Claude can now kiss his wife without worrying. He enjoys the private response she gives him and the way her guard drops when they are together. He realizes how deeply he feels for Ivona after watching the performance yesterday. He feels hurt when she's hurt. He doesn't want to see her sad, and he'll go to any length to make her happy. And so he hopes she will stay by his side forever. All this time he thought that he would never feel anything except coldness, but now he can't deny how much he loves Ivona. Today is their last day of vacation, and they hope to see the herb market open. She wants to learn more about the different plants, since she can only use Charlotte's power on plants she knows about, but the market has been closed ever since they got to the kingdom. While walking, they notice an invisible carriage, and it nearly hits some children passing by. Thankfully, Claude is there to save the kids. They decide to follow the strange carriage since it could cause an accident, and to their surprise, it enters the herb market, where they uncover other carriages, explaining why the herb market is closed. She senses a familiar mana and wants to investigate it further. So Claude, being the supportive husband, doesn't pry and goes along with her. She removes the mana that is making the carriage invisible using Hazlat, revealing Tristan, who's behind it all. After being grilled by the crown princess, Gospal becomes aggressive around Tristan, and Tristan blames Ivona and Sahers for their growing distance. What? He thinks it would have been better if he had been born a woman, because all you need to do is marry someone of high position and you're set. Tristan should really stop playing the victim. To calm Gospal, he says he will try to bring enough herbs using his own summoning power, and if that fails, they will get some from other countries. Gospal looks down on him, saying his level is too low to summon, but Tristan sneers at him and points out how much simpler things would have been if Gospal was indeed the Golden Summoner. Tristan leaves Gospal and gets ready to summon. Tristan becomes unsuccessful and tells Gospal they need to buy the herbs from another country. Gospal yells at him, telling him they should have done so in the first place, adding that this wouldn't happen if Ivona was still with them. Ivona has always been the problem. Tristan then remembers how timid she used to be. When they were younger, Ivona told him how her parents were often upset at her, and it was he who instilled in her that summoning might make her parents love her. And he saw how Ivona developed as a summoner just to get her father's attention, but he thinks Ivona did it by attempting to beat him. But now, she has everything and he doesn't, and considers it unfair. Back to the present, Gospal is surprised to see both Ivona and Claude in the market. Ivona tries to taunt him, saying he should be busy making all the herbs, while Claude thinks he's buying herbs instead of cultivating them himself. Ivona pokes fun at Gospal, telling Claude that shouldn't be the case since he is the Golden Summoner. Gospal hates them both, especially the way the Duke looks down at him, and so he bursts out, confessing that he indeed doesn't have the powers and is buying the herbs instead. The Duke informs him that he'll be reported to the Emperor, but Gospal is unconcerned and calls out Ivona, ranting about how she seems brave now merely because she married the Duke, but was clinging to him before, and then he storms out. Gospal's words did not sit right with Claude, who decided to follow him, while Ivona senses something different in her husband's aura, as if someone else is using Claude's voice. Ivona is about to follow him when Tristan approaches her, telling her how glad he is to see how well the Duke treats her and how they should celebrate. But for Ivona, those are all meaningless words. Now that he can't manipulate the new Ivona, he trembles at how much she has changed, then cries out for help, asking her to pretend that they did not see anything today. She smiles back at her cousin, saying this should not be his problem but Gospal's. He is a fake golden summoner who's making him do the dirty work, and they both know Gospal only thinks about himself. So she gently reminds him of his worth and asks him to join her side instead. Tristan is so desperate that he sees Ivona as a savior of sorts. Of course, these are all lies, and now Ivona is the one manipulating him. Tristan is about to join hands with her when she pulls away, saying he should think it over first, and leaves to find her husband. She became so good with mind tricks thanks to you. Meanwhile, Gospal is trying to escape in a carriage when Claude gets in the way. He notices Claude is only carrying an ordinary sword and accelerates the carriage in an attempt to hit him. But Claude, who has a dark aura in him, slices the carriage in half without breaking a sweat. Claude approaches the injured Gospal and suggests they have a chat. As onlookers begin to swarm the scene, Claude quickly takes him to a nearby alley. Gospal couldn't believe he's beating him just because of Ivona, who is simply a disposable object in his eyes. But before he can say anything else, a heavy aura presses him to the ground. Claude really doesn't care about his scheme with the herbs, but what icks him is the fact that it is due to him, the ex-fiancé, that Ivona is unable to trust others. Gospal can't believe the supposedly emotionless Claude is beating him up over a girl. Claude then grabs him by the collar, looking straight into his eyes. He can't believe Ivona got engaged to such a loser before tossing him. Gospal's pride can't take it, and he tries to punch back, only to be shoved back to the ground. And, to make matters better, Claude breaks his arm. Oh, how satisfying! Claude can easily mask his death as an accident, but he wants to see his ugliness uncovered during the fall harvest, whereas Gospal, who looks so battered, refuses to accept that he owns the holy sword because he is surrounded by an evil aura. Ivona comes at that very moment, catching sight of the battered Gospal while Claude escorts his wife back to their hotel. As the two walk, Ivona asks Claude why he knocked up Gospal, and Claude honestly says that he can't take how Gospal insulted her and mistreated her in the past. He fears Ivona will believe he's gone too far, but to his surprise, Ivona appears pleased and even thanks him for assisting her. And since he knows rumors might spread that he beat him up, he has already used restoration magic to heal Gospal's arm, and this is being witnessed by a man in a white hood. That night, Tristan informs Gospal that Ivona has agreed not to reveal his involvement in their schemes. Before Gospal can respond, Tristan encourages him to be thankful that he will be safe, adding that the Emperor is his uncle, so his punishment can't be too harsh. Gospal is being escorted to the Emperor by royal knights, and on the way, he claims to have been hurt by the Duke, but no one believes him since his wounds have already healed. Now that the Emperor has heard about the herb smuggling, Gospal is on his knees trying to explain to the Emperor that the reason he is not using his summoning powers is because he believes in obeying the will of the gods. Just in time, Priest Levis arrives to visit the Emperor and explains that the medicinal herbs Ivona has created are part of the divine will since they have treated so many infected. And now that the temple has backed up the use of the herbs, Gospal has run out of reasons, causing the Emperor to get enraged. He can't believe he is supposed to be his successor. Now that the Emperor has mentioned his ever-loving throne, he promises the Emperor that he will risk his life for the next expedition instead. The Emperor has had enough of his stupidity and informs him that his punishment will be far worse if Sahers had not succeeded in developing the treatment. Hearing how the Emperor compliments Sahers, he figures that he must be planning to give the throne to her. He doesn't think it makes any sense for a girl to run the empire, so before he's taken away, he promises to get the throne someday. Gospal's smuggling has already spread among the nobles, and the fact that he only needs to make 1/5 of what the Duchess has grown shocks everyone, given that he is supposedly someone powerful. Of course, some still support Gospal, arguing that it all comes down to their expertise. claiming that Gospal is the best in combat, while the Duchess may faint if she encounters a demon. But Lady Pemgrin disagrees, saying Ivona is powerful too. She saves several people and reminds him that the ball they are currently attending is to honor her achievements. Then the nobles begin to discuss the fall harvest and speculate on who would stand out among Gospal, Claude, and Ivona. After a while, the doors open, signaling the arrival of the Duchess and the Duke. The power couple astounds everyone, but what particularly stands out to them is the way they announce Ivona's name before the Duke. The women seem happy about it, but the men don't seem to be, as they don't see their wives as their equals. Ivona quickly asks her husband if it bothers him as well, but his response is so lovely, telling her he's rather proud. The ladies start to gather around her, congratulating her, and they then discuss her summons as Ivona requests Lady Pemgrin to assist her in explaining the summoning to the ladies. The ladies are amazed by Lady Pemgrin's knowledge of summoning, and they hear that Ivona taught herself summoning, which is all new to the ladies since women are restricted to only learning embroidery, etiquette, and other housewife-related skills. Some of them desire to be knights, go to academies, or be wizards. Hearing all of their dreams saddens Ivona, who thinks their social structure is flawed. She then remembers Lady Selton and learns that she gave up her status and is now studying abroad, which is making her proud. Meanwhile, Levis approaches the Duke, advising him that the former chief priest who insulted Ivona has been fired, and that he has been appointed in his place. He also mentions the great contribution Ivona made, and the Duke smilingly agrees, which shocks the men. They've never seen him show so much emotion, let alone compliment someone. The Emperor then enters and begins thanking the Duke and Duchess for their tremendous assistance during the pandemic, surprising everyone with his declaration that he trusts Ivona more than the temple. Instead of replying to his compliment, Ivona states that something larger is at work, implying that the outbreak is inevitable and that the temple should not be blamed. She then informs him, along with the nobles present, that the purpose behind the epidemic is to gather sufficient sacrifice to resurrect the Demon King. The nobles start to get worried, so Princess Sahurs has to interrupt and ask Ivona if she can take responsibility for what she is claiming. Ivona, of course, is confident since she really knows what is about to happen. When Sir Bardrin steps up and backs Ivona's claim and shares to the princess that the statue of purification that has been built in the villages is indeed surrounded by malicious power, unlike the statues they have in the temple. Even the Emperor thinks the epidemic is strange and asks Ivona's suggestion on what they should do to prevent the Demon King from resurrecting. Yay! Everyone seems to believe in Ivona now, until one noble joins in and says they shouldn't be concerned because they have Claude, the master of the Holy Sword. Ivona defends her husband by informing everyone that the enemy is not something that can be dealt with by a single man. And Sahur supports her by innocently warning everyone who has abandoned their obligations just to let Claude bear everything. Now that that is settled, they then discuss their preparations. Lady Pemgrin is walking with Ivona after the ball. She desperately wants to help Ivona with the approaching conflict, but can't since she still needs to learn more summoning. Ivona wants to teach her, but it won't be that easy, so she suggests having her as her lady-in-waiting in the meantime, which Lady Pemgrin thinks her family will gladly accept. Ivona and Claude are now walking back to the carriage when Bardrin runs after them, simply to offer Ivona a bouquet. Really? In front of the husband? This whole scenario is obviously not to the Duke's liking. Bardrin assures him that he is merely trying to make amends for the way he has treated her before and hopes she'll accept his token of apology. The known summoner-killer of her past is now asking her for her forgiveness. However, she hesitates since Claude might not be pleased, but she accepts it anyway so they can leave. Inside the carriage, she feels relieved that she can now fight alongside Claude and that he doesn't need to carry the weight on his own. They are both so overjoyed that they kiss again, only breaking apart when Ivona can't help but ask how he seems so experienced. But to her surprise, it's actually his first time. Claude blushes at the thought of having to admit it. Cute. Then they kiss again. Okay, that's enough. Let's see what Tristan and Gospal are up to. The news about the resurrection of the Demon King reaches them, and this time, it will be far more dangerous since they do not have Ivona to summon for them. Even if Tristan believes they should stop, Gospal is too invested in becoming the next emperor to give up now. Get a life. Then Gospal brings up the fact that he was the one who planned to have Ivona serve as his shadow. Therefore, Tristan should do whatever it takes to ensure his ascension to the throne. As they speak, the figure in the white hood reappears and provides them with valuable information that will aid Gospal's new shadow summoner. Back in the north, Ivona informs Claude that she wishes to learn how to ride a horse, which confuses him because she can just use Hazlat for transportation if needed. As an excuse, Ivona claims that learning to ride a horse is simply for precaution, as the upcoming excursion will be full of unexpected dangers. The real reason, though, is that people still believe that Hazlat is Gospal's divine beast. She will tell the truth at some point, but doing so on the expedition would be dangerous, because it would generate chaos and derail their objective. Claude agrees with her proposal, and despite the fact that he's busy organizing for the expedition, he insists on helping his wife himself. Time with Ivona is not wasted time for our guy. Several days later, Lady Lillian arrives at the north and hurriedly scrambles her suitcase in search of the documents she's been studying in order to be of assistance before the fall expedition. Ivona admires her efforts, but she intends to teach the lady summoning slowly and carefully. Of course, Ivona would appreciate any assistance she can get for the expedition, but rushing Lillian will almost certainly result in an accident. So for now, Ivona plans to teach her basic rules, and then when the time comes, she will introduce the Kiridin elixir to increase Lillian's mana to help her develop summoning abilities quickly. But that's a secret for now. Oh, can't wait to see Lillian's Pokémons in the future! Claude thinks that Ivona should start riding a horse suitable for the expedition now that she has been taught to do it on a training horse. Ivona is taken aback when she discovers the horse is glistening white and hears that the Emperor himself gave it to Claude, but cautions her that it is picky and would only allow him to ride it. However, Claude is confident that the horse will accept Ivona, so she approaches the gleaming animal and extends her hand, and as expected, the horse submits to her control. She gave it the name Margot, which is short for Margaret since it's a female horse. Lucius, who has been quietly monitoring them from a tree branch, is proud of Ivona for her ability to get along with not only divine beasts, but also any animals. He thinks it's due to her soothing aura, but it turns out that's not the only case. Claude, standing behind her, is radiating an evil aura that threatens the horse. He's really out there making sure the horse will like his wife. Ivona and Sally are heading down the corridor when Stefan shows up, who appears to have something important to tell Ivona, so she orders Sally to leave so she may speak with him discreetly. Stefan then hands Ivona a letter from her family now that Sally has left. Ivona maintains ties with the Votan family, since, after becoming Duchess, she paid their family servants and asks them to stay in the palace to spy on her father. When she opens the letter, she is shocked to learn that their mansion was the victim of a burglary, and that the culprit, whoever they are, took just a little safe from her study. She trembles in fear because in that safe, she kept the secret text that could boost her magical abilities. It was also the secret text she had used to cast those destructive spells before. Ivona tries to remain cool and remembers that the documents include hieroglyphs that only the Votan family can decode, so whoever reads them can't understand them. But if the thief is someone in her family, a person who can read the secret text, the matter becomes much more complicated. She attempts to figure out who stole it and thinks Tristan wouldn't dare since he lacks the courage to use the dangerous spell. But even if he did steal and have a new summoner try it, the mere fact that it involves a risky experiment would be enough for the summoner to give up. She meticulously hid the safe, and only 3 people knew where it was. Ivona, her father, and the only other person she trusted back in the mansion, her personal maid, Sally. I knew it! I already felt from the start that Sally is a sneaky little snake. During last spring's ball for Duke Claude Agentine, Sally gets all twisted up and betrays Ivona. It all started when Sally was running errands in the village and some frightening boys cornered her in a quiet alley. She was scared, and Gospal came to her rescue, unaware that he had orchestrated the whole event. Gosh, this manipulative guy is always on the roll, ugh! Gospal persists in his display of affection by gently touching Sally's face. However, she promptly declines, being aware that the master she serves is his fiance. However, her unexpected surge of desire causes her to blurt out her emotions for him when Gospal walks away looking sad. Exactly what this manipulative and weak guy is hoping for. I just don't get it. What do they see in this guy? He then hugs her and convinces her that Ivona is terrible and that he has no choice but to get engaged with her so she will not reveal his secrets. And this naive girl is so brainwashed that she chose to assist him rather than her longtime master. So she followed Ivona in the north to spy on her and report every detail to Gospal. Back in the present, Sally receives a letter from Gospal instructing her to ensure that Ivona does not join the expedition. So she appears concerned in front of Ivona, urging her not to join the dangerous trip. Well, who said Gospal and his little gang are the only ones who mastered the manipulation technique? Our girl has too! After expressing gratitude for Sally's care, Ivona eagerly invites her to accompany her because, as Sally stated, the expedition is dangerous and she will likely require assistance. Behold this frightened snake, who eventually agrees to Ivona's demand because she sees this as an opportunity to see Gospal, and she assumes that he will protect her from harm. As if. Ivona had Stefan look into Sally before she and Claude went to the old ruins, so she knows her trusty maid is betraying her. Ivona asks Stefan to keep the information a secret and simply let Sally be, since she wants to maintain the connection they once shared. Although she is angry that Sally has been reporting to Gospal, her greatest aggravation is that Gospal managed to influence and toy with the one person she trusts the most. Today, the Knight's commander reports to the Duke that their fleet is in excellent condition for their following expedition, when the Duchess enters to speak with her husband. She does not fail to boost the commander's morale, making him even more driven to do well. Now that they are alone, Ivona inquires about their preparations, and Claude gladly reassures her that, thanks to her advance notice, they are better prepared than ever. The Agentine Knights are ready, as are the Imperial family and the Church, which relieves her greatly because this will make a huge difference, and the enemies will be unable to force them back like they have in the past. They were able to win in the past because she experimented on herself, but they also incurred a large number of casualties due to a lack of preparation, and the person who suffered the most was Claude, who was on the front lines. Ivona then reminds Claude of her promise to protect him, which makes Claude laugh since it brings up a memory of when she unexpectedly proposed to him. Yeah, they've really come a long way from those desperate days. I want what they have. Anyway, Ivona leans in, still unable to imagine they'll end up loving each other as Claude blushingly kisses her cheek, reminding her that she too can count on him in times of need. Sir, can I lean on you too? Kidding. After Ivona leaves his office, Claude sighs since he has been keeping something from everyone, namely the fact that the Holy Sword has been rejecting him ever since their visit to the ruins. Something about this makes me uneasy. Meanwhile, Gospal and Tristan have been busy preparing for the expedition, which includes a new shadow summoner for him. This new girl needs help, or else she'll end up in the same tragic situation as Ivona before, and no woman deserves it. Gospal smiles at his new summoner as if she's a toy he can't wait to use, and he instructs her to use her remarkable skills to shadow him. Tristan even adds that if her skills fail, they have a backup plan in place so they don't have to worry. Is he talking about Ivona's secret text? The new summoner appears terrified and innocent as she speaks up to confirm that Gospal must follow his promise to her after assisting them in the mission. And this fake trash of a guy approaches her with an evil smile, telling her that she is now his fiancé and that he intends to protect her and her family. Gosh, he tricked another woman to become his fiancé. I can't. Summer seems to fly by as everyone is busy preparing, and with the blink of an eye, fall has arrived, which means the expedition is finally here. The expedition's aim is to weaken the Demon King's power, and owing it to everyone's collaboration, they have discovered potent black magic in the Karazel Mountains, which makes it the ideal location for the expedition. Someone other than the Emperor or Bardren, the Holy Knight's leader, was picked to lead the mission. It was none other than our own Claude, the keeper of the Holy Sword. Of this, I am incredibly proud. Claude orders everyone in the barracks to get some rest because the first battle of the day is set for tonight. Yet he softens when his wife shows up and reminds her to do the same. Gospal, on the other hand, is observing them from behind and is shocked to see Sally, whom he drags into the forest quickly. He shoves Sally against a tree, furious, claiming he's under a lot of stress right now and can't have her presence added to it. Sally apologizes, and Gospal encourages her to be useful by returning to Ivona and finding her weakness. Sally, I'm angry at you, but I still hope you wake up. The leaders assembled that afternoon for a discussion without the Holy Knights, who would come in a few days. Claude then informs them of a problem they are experiencing. Not long ago, the Imperial Knights were sent to investigate their target area, but no one has returned, which surprises everyone considering that the Imperial Knights are supposed to be the strongest. When Claude asks whether anyone from the elite family is up for the survey, silence falls over the room as no one is brave enough to do what the Imperial Knight couldn't. Everyone then turns to Baron Gospal, believing that the so-called Golden Summoner could simply use his divine beast Hazlat for the task. Serves him right. Go, boy! Use your divine beast! Go! Go! Gospal replies hastily to their suggestions, but after witnessing their scowls, he calms down. He then suggests that Duke Agentine be handed the assignment instead, which is met with dissatisfaction because the Duke is the commander and forcing him to leave his post is not an option. Ivona has been doing the work for him, so Gospal has no choice but to claim to be ill as an excuse, causing all leaders to voice out their disappointment since Gospal once had a stellar reputation as a summoner. But now he isn't up to the task when they need him the most. Hearing their comments makes him shudder, so he urges them to stop, stating that he simply does not want to go on a surveillance operation. While everyone is talking, Ivona interrupts and volunteers to carry out the mission, surprising everyone and reminding them that she too is a summoner. Ivona's sudden involvement infuriates Gospal because he is aware of her abilities and worries about the consequences if she's successful. So in an attempt to thwart Ivona's plan, Gospal claims that if she goes, they will be considered dishonorable for merely using a lady as cover for a mission. And he smirks, believing that he has made a nice deflection. Looking at Gospal, Ivona asks if he wants to embark on the mission to preserve everyone's pride, which causes him to look pale because he doesn't know what to say. Yes, keep digging your own grave. Since no one is willing to go on the mission, one of the leaders suggests that they appoint some knights to accompany the Duchess. But Ivona prefers to go alone since she wants to use Hazlat without letting anyone see. They all sigh at her suggestion, but when Ivona assures Claude that she will return safely and without harm, he quickly declares that she will go on the mission alone. Their level of trust in one another is truly remarkable. Ivona then prepares to go on the mission, and while riding Hazlat, she summons the divine beast Asla to conceal herself. After examining the area, Ivona discovers a massive beast and pursues it, only to be surprised by what she discovers. A beast village! Ivona can only think of one explanation. The villages must have been commanded by a high-ranking intelligent beast, which concerns her because this scenario has never happened in the past. Scaredy Cat Gospal believes she is spouting nonsense, so she decides to use Asla's abilities to project what she has witnessed. Upon seeing the truth, the leaders begin to quiver and contemplate a retreat. However, their composure is restored when their commander, Claude, proposes a surprise attack without displaying any signs of fear, which improves the tone in the meeting and causes the leaders to regain their composure. They begin by congratulating Ivona on a successful operation while mocking Gospal for his cowardice, prompting Ivona to smile innocently and assure them that Gospal just lacks competence. Just as Blondie is about to square up, the husband shoots a menacing glare, causing him to tremble with fear and stay silent. When word gets out that the Duchess went on a survey trip alone, the knights laugh it off, thinking that at least a stubborn girl like her won't quietly cry behind the Duke. However, their jokes backfire when a guy unexpectedly causes him to trip. As he prepares to confront the man, he recognizes him as the commander of the Agentine Knights and his troops, who gives them their scornful expressions on their faces, so he leaves. Yes, you dare criticize their Duchess when these men are willing to give their lives for her? As the magical beast slumbered that night, the knights under Claude's command immediately launched a surprise attack. Everyone wants to do well, given that the throne is wide open since the Baron Blondie is no longer on good terms with the Empire, and Claude is out of the picture because he's already married. So they all believe they have a chance to become the hero, marry the princess, and take the throne. But when a massive beast they killed keeps advancing, they all take flight, while now is the moment for the Northern Knights to prove themselves. Commander Baraton and his men slaughtered all of the large rampaging monsters, leaving the other noble knights speechless. Well, after the Duchess rescued them from the Malongos, the Agentine Knights trained hard to prove themselves worthy of their master, and tonight, their efforts paid off. Good job, everyone! They are almost done sweeping the village of the beast when suddenly the beast becomes strangely strong, and Ivona quickly deduces that they are under a spell that makes them go berserk. They need to identify the beast behind this when the ground collapses and the boss appears, revealing himself to be a massive serpent. Because the knights are frozen in fear from the serpent's menacing energy, Claude has to face the beast solo this time. He manages to cause damage to it when his sword is acting up again. Thankfully, Ivona is there to help him out. She asks Claude to lure the snake away from everyone since its blood is deadly, which he follows as Ivona uses Asla's ice magic to attack. But our beloved Asla gets abducted by a winged beast. Put our black Pikachu down now! Sorry for getting carried away and forgetting that Daddy is there to save Asla. The power couple then resumes their tactics, with Claude distracting the massive snake while Ivona and Asla freeze its body and then strike it with big spikes, killing it. This lovely couple is the embodiment of teamwork. After defeating the boss, the forces easily eliminated the remaining beasts, and Claude issued an order for a retreat due to the heavy casualties. They do, however, receive word that Gospal and his knights are already on their way to the next target village without Claude's command. The beasts have completely overpowered the Baron's knights, so they beg Gospal to help, yet he simply stands there, proud as ever, lecturing them for ordering him around. The commander looks disappointed as he looks at Gospal. He admits that his knights aren't exceptionally strong, but that with the Golden Summoner by their side, they've never had any problems on an expedition. Gospal may be an evil son of his mother, but they tolerate him since he's always reliable on the battlefield. However, his view changes as he watches his men die for their master, who doesn't even lift a finger to help them. Just when the knights are about to give up, Ivona and the Agentine knights arrive to assist them, plainly making Gospal shiver in rage once more because he never wishes to receive help from Ivona. So, this time, Gospal makes his move and a divine beast under his command appears, which Ivona assumes is the work of Tristan. She scans around and finds a girl in a cloak, so she figures Gospal must have taken another shadow summoner as a victim. Another serpent boss of this monster village emerges, and Gospal, who is relieved to meet a worthy opponent, makes 4 different divine beast charges at the beast at the same time. This leads the snake beast to growl and use its body to attack them, sweeping over the forest. Then, out of nowhere, the divine beast vanishes, and the serpent starts slaughtering Gospal's knights as a result. Gospal has no idea what happened until he recalls Ivona's claims that there are reasons why a summoner cannot summon anymore. The divine beast takes too much damage, the summoner loses focus or mana, and finally, if the summoner is in distress, which is the case right now. After the snake attacked, the girl falls unconscious and is crushed by a tree. The knights beg him for help, but he is helpless at the moment, so our girl must now take center stage. Ivona uses Charlotte to halt the serpent's movement before using Asla to totally freeze it. Gospal gasps at Ivona's power that even Claude, a frigid person, trusts her. At that very moment, a Malongo suddenly appears behind him, and he quickly uses one of his knights as a shield with no hesitation. After seeing how self-centered he is, his own knights stare at him furiously and with disdain. Gospal has always been egotistic, treating his own knights as toys and asking them to spar with him using a wooden sword while he uses a real weapon. He even punishes them at times, and those who oppose him are struck down by his sword. But the real issue lies with Gospal's parents, who do not discipline him to be a good person, but instead let him do anything he wants. Parents like them disgust me. Tonight, even without saying anything, they all agreed that they could never work under Gospal's command again. One of the knights points out that everyone around Gospal has died protecting him, and Gospal hasn't even realized it. He then smiles, applauding them for their efforts, when a beast behind him attacks, causing him to fall to his knees with his injured arm. He demands that they kill the beast and tend to his wound, but he is taken aback when all he gets in return is silence and their annoyed expression. Finally, time to let go of an undeserving master. Gospal screams when the beast is about to completely devour him this time, but getting rid of Gospal now would not be enough. We still need to see his soul and pride shattered, so it's only fair that Bardran comes to his rescue. Bardran and the Holy Knights have finally arrived to help, and after a day and a half of fighting, the army decided to retreat and prepare for the next wave. In the barracks, the chief priest is happy to notify Claude that everyone has been treated and that no one is seriously hurt, except for Gospal's knights, who have died. Claude finishes the day and returns to his tent, where Ivona awaits him. Well, she should be resting, but the fact that there is only one bed makes her nervous. Silly girl, what are you thinking, Claude senses her fidgetness and invites her to join him for tea, and he then decides to make it himself. She grins as she sips her tea, her fatigue dissipating, and she catches her husband staring at her. So as an excuse, he explains that looking at her makes him relax. He then approaches her, teasing her that they haven't spent much time together alone, and gives her a passionate kiss. As they sip their tea, she has an idea and asks him to lie down on the bed, which makes our guy's heart here go doki doki. She then finishes her sentence and says she wants to use the wish coupon, so Claude has no choice but to follow her request and lie face down. Ivona is excited to return the favor after Claude gives her a massage during their trip to the hot springs. She begins by massaging his neck and discovers that his muscles are so hard that she cannot massage them at all. She tries several different strokes, but his muscles are so tense that she panics and blushes because she realizes she's just touching his body. This time, she decides to massage his leg muscle because she believes it's softer there. However, as she starts to press it, Claude can't take it anymore and abruptly gets up, causing her to fall. He quickly catches her and blushingly asks what she's doing, to which she replies that she simply wants to give him a massage to relieve his fatigue. Claude tells her that her finger strength is different from his, so the wish coupon is invalid today. This time, he lies her gently on the bed and offers to massage her instead. That makes her blush, and as he squeezes her muscles, she feels nervous, despite the fact that it's only a massage. But as soon as she relaxes, she falls asleep. Claude loves looking at his sleeping wife and appreciates that she puts him first, even though she's exhausted. At first, he only wanted to protect her, but after spending time with her, he couldn't help but desire more, especially tonight when Ivona started touching him here and there. He feels ashamed of his immoral thoughts and decides to take it easy, slowly matching his wife's pace. As he assists Ivona in getting into a proper sleeping position, he can't help but to flush so much that he had to leave their tent to calm down. Cutie. When Claude is looking for a distraction, he comes upon the commander of the Agentine Knights, Baraton. Baraton is overjoyed when Claude compliments his leadership in the last battle. But sorry, charming knight, you will fall prey to your master tonight. The two spar, and while the commander is honored to spar with the Duke, he just cannot keep up with him. Claude's words of compliment contradict the level of difficulty of their sparring, causing the poor commander to stagger in dread and gratitude. Your sacrifice will be remembered, sir. The next morning, Bardron informs Claude that they discovered a cave with monster cores and proposes they take care of it as soon as possible, to which Claude agrees, until Gospal butts in and volunteers to have him and his knights execute the job. Claude knows that Gospal knights aren't in good enough shape to fight, so he delegated the tasks to the Holy Knights. But when Gospal won't stop insisting, Claude expresses his annoyance by reminding him that the only reason he didn't punish him for disobeying his order the last time was due to the sacrifices of his knights. Claude issues his final warning, but Gospal has the guts to continue scaring Claude with the Nephew of the Emperor Act, only to fall silent when Claude informs him that the directive was issued by the Emperor himself. While walking back to his tent, Gospal overhears the knights mocking him while admiring the Agentine couple. So he vents his rage inside the tent, shattering everything in sight until Tristan comes. Seeing these two manipulative, evil couple makes me sick. Instead of apologizing after accidentally hitting Tristan with hot tea, Gospal is only concerned with telling Tristan about his bad day, while Tristan confronts him for habitually throwing things. Their relationship is clearly going downhill. They end up arguing, so Tristan decides to go, but Gospal stops him and begins gaslighting him, telling him that he should console him rather than give him an attitude, given that he gave him so many things. He then starts comparing Tristan to Ivona, while making Tristan yell and cry while confessing that it is Gospal who must consider his feelings, given that he watched him get engaged to Ivona and even had him confess feelings to a maid. Gospal loses it and tells Tristan once more that this was all his idea, making him shudder in terror. So he apologizes and follows Gospal's command to continue deciphering the secret text. He wants Tristan to do it quickly because he can't wait to make his new shadow use the powers for herself. And once she does, he plans to destroy the Agentine pair. At the same time, Sally is right outside the tent and has heard it all. A few hours earlier, Sally overhears the knights discussing the Baron and his new fiancée, who looks like Ivona. She never expected to marry Gospal because their social statuses are so different, but she is taken aback that her lover never mentions his new fiancé to her, causing her to sob. Sally has recently observed Gospal's coldness toward her, and she intends to meet with him to demand an explanation when she crosses paths with Tristan. She is shocked to see him in the barracks, while Tristan smiles at her, reminding her that she should avoid being spotted around Gospal to prevent stressing him out, then walks away. Sally can't believe what she just heard, assuming that Tristan must have known about her relationship with Gospal. And since he is Ivona's cousin, she is afraid he'll tell Ivona, so that night she rushes to speak with Gospal. But here's something more intriguing. At last, she learns the truth. These two men are romantically involved and have been playing with her the whole time. Hurts, right? But there is still hope for you, so do the right thing. Sally sobs after learning the truth, and it appears that the sky is crying with her as she hurries back to Ivona. Ivona and Lillian are studying when Sally comes in drenched, and Ivona can tell something is wrong by the tone of her voice, so she asks Lillian to leave so they can talk. Ivona then uses Asla to dry Sally's clothes before wiping away her tears and asking her to explain what happened. Our girl is just so kind. After Sally confesses everything, Ivona learns that Gospal brainwashed Sally following their failed engagement. Ivona then admits that she is aware that she's been betraying her, but still trusts her to return to her, which prompts Sally to yell in humiliation, thinking Ivona should be talking about punishing her rather than urging her to return. Ivona holds Sally's quivering hands tenderly, telling her that she too was a victim of the deceitful Baron, but that what matters most is figuring out a way to overcome Gospal's clutches. Ivona's words motivate her, so she kneels before Ivona to give her a chance to atone and proposes that Gospal still trusts her. Ivona can use her to spy on him or whatever, but Sally is determined to do anything she wants, even if it means risking her life, begging Ivona to keep her by her side. I don't know about our girl here, but I have trust issues. Since Sally is so insistent, Ivona hasn't rejected her offer to become a double spy for her. However, for the time being, Ivona wants Sally to spill all the beans. Sally did, in fact, reveal the location of the Voten's secret text to Gospal after he claimed that Ivona had broken her promise to hand it over to him in exchange for their engagement. He could have gotten it from Ivona's father, but he declined his request for a large sum of jewels and money in exchange for the manuscript. After Sally apologizes, she shares what she overheard today regarding Gospal's new summoner, fiance, and Gospal and Tristan's discussion about throwing someone into an experiment. Ivona had anticipated that they would use the hidden text as their card, but knowing that someone else will have to bear the weight she used to carry in the past is something her conscience will not allow. The next day, Ivona's cute student here, Lillian, is practicing summoning in the woods when she is startled by a person's presence and realizes it is Gospal's new summoner. At the same time, Ivona asks Claude for permission to leave before meeting for a bit, which Claude agrees to without any question, but he then holds her hand and asks whether she's okay. When Ivona reluctantly replies that everything is alright, Claude, the ever-supportive husband that he is, doesn't press any further and ends their talk with a kiss on her hand and a reminder that she can always call him for help. Our girl blushes, but simply thanks him and walks away. I don't like how these two are keeping secrets from each other. Ivona has now ventured into the forest in her quest to find the summoner, accompanied by our adorable Asla. She is surprised to run into Lillian and the summoner herself, who goes by the name of Helen Aston. Ivona smiles at Helen, glad that she recognizes her. Well, who would not when all summoners admire her efforts for increasing the summoner reputation? However, Helen gets anxious and discovers her hood has slipped while speaking. Ivona then remembers that the Aston family is one of the few summoning families in the Parama Empire, which explains why she saw such powerful summoning powers to summon several heavenly monsters at once. It worries Ivona that she appears ill and sways as she moves, but Ivona believes she hasn't used the secret text yet, so Gospal must have overworked her. Before Helen leaves, Ivona assures her that she may rely on her for assistance, and she mentions the closeness of Gospal and Tristan, hoping Helen will understand her message and not fall in love with Gospal. Meanwhile, Gospal is so worried that Helen ran into Ivona that he begins to tell her that Ivona is a liar and is completely jealous of him. But Helen cuts him off by claiming that she has never seen Ivona, quickly changing his attitude and asking her to rest before their experiment. As his fiancée, she then questions Gospal's relationship with Tristan, which catches him off guard. But Helen says she doesn't care about his personal life and will carry out the experiment as planned as long as he keeps his promise. The Aston family was known for their summoning, and because of her grandfather, who signed a contract before his death, they lost their mansion, leaving them with debt. Thankfully, her father used his summoning abilities to embark on expeditions to gradually pay off their debt, and the two of them live in hope of a better future no matter how difficult life is. However, a year ago, her father came back so heavily injured that she had to take care of him when one day, an uninvited guest, Gospal, offered to take care of her father's treatment if she became his shadow, which she accepted since she needed his help. Though she knows Gospal intentionally didn't tell her the secret text was dangerous and could kill her, she'll accept whatever's best for her own family. Helen sits so exhausted under a tree, wishing for a conversation with Ivona as she remembers that Ivona put a stop to the pandemic, making her hope that Ivona could do the same for her father. However, Helen fears that it's too late, as Gospal has already started treating her father and plans to conduct the experiment without delay. For several days, the operation has become more difficult as the beasts put up defenses against their surprise night attacks, rendering it ineffective. And they're being pushed back as the beasts inexplicably grow too strong. As a result, their knights are now in poor condition, as the number of wounded was larger than expected, and the priests have been healing them tirelessly. Everyone is expecting to see Baron Giese's summoning talents, so one of the leaders wonders why he's being so evasive in light of their dire situation, and that he only summons feeble divine creatures, which they perceive as doing little to help them. This causes him to invent new explanations and tells everyone that he's been hiding the fact that he can call the king of the divine beasts all along. Oh no, what a liar! He then confidently explains that he is simply gathering his energy in preparation for summoning the divine king beast. Gospal is overjoyed that everyone trusts him, but it's all a ruse to enhance his ego. Ivona is filled with frustration at Gospal's unwavering confidence in deceiving others, and she worries that he will soon coerce Miss Aston into using the secret text. She contemplates exposing Gospal's lies, but decides it's not the right time. Girl, when? But what truly worries her is her husband, who just entered their room and asked if he could talk to her about something that has been bothering him. About her divine beast Haslat, being known as Baron Giese's divine beast. Ivona had been anticipating Claude's inquiry about Haslat since he witnessed her summoning the said divine beast, but she avoided answering the question. Claude wants to know if it's something she can't share, but Our Lady responds in a way that hurts me too, that the issue with Haslat isn't something he needs to know. In her defense, she simply wants to end their conversation there because explaining her ability to summon Haslat would entail detailing her entire relationship with Gospal. From his inability to summon to the reality that she became his shadow and gave her life for him out of love. Ivona doesn't want Claude to see that side of her and only wants him to perceive her as strong and rational. I really like you, dear, but keeping it a secret from the person you care about would definitely hurt them. Just like Claude now, who ends up apologizing for asking and decides to leave. Ivona chooses not to stop Claude and considers the space between them to be okay, as she too is restraining herself from asking why he appears tortured while wielding his holy sword. When daylight arrives, Stefan provides the information Ivona had requested regarding the Aston family and Gospal. She then learns that the Aston family is in debt and Helen's father is ill, thus she must be in desperate need of money, which could explain why she's working with Gospal. Helen's father, Baron Aston, has been frequently dealing with guilds for commission, but Stefan couldn't locate any additional leads that could connect Gospal to Baron Aston. However, thanks to Claude, who helped Stefan with his investigation, he discovered that it was Tristan who last hired the Baron to kill a beast. He was escorted by mercenaries for the task, but he ended up injuring his leg, so they treated him. However, it was too late because the magical beast's poison spread throughout his body, causing him to lose his eyesight and sanity. What's more surprising is that the unfortunate Baron exits a carriage owned by Gospal. Ivona has many concerns and remains confused as to why Gospal put the Baron in such a state when the image of Helen in pain comes to mind, and she instantly requests that Pharaon be brought to her. Pharaon, with his wagging tail, appears so quickly, and Ivona discovers that Claude has once again assisted her by requesting a teleportation gate from the magical tower that Pharaon can use. Claude aiding her despite her secrecy makes her feel guilty. Ivona then assigns Pharaon a task, perhaps related to the Baron's illness, and our smart guy is ready to do the investigation in a flash. Ivona is now back in their tent and worries that Claude might have misunderstood her and thinks she still has feelings for that self-centered piece of paper, but she has set aside her feelings for now to attend their leaders' meeting. Ivona begins her surveillance report, claiming that, unlike the prior day, she has discovered a much larger monster community where she has spotted a new type of magical beast. Gospal cuts her off to laugh and tries to disgrace her by claiming that if what she finds today differs from what she found the first time, it can only signify that she wasn't meticulous in her mission. Mr. Husband breaks Gospal's stupidity and says that the forest itself has denser dark magic, which the leaders agreed on, and Barjon adds that whatever is going on, the mountain is changing. So stating Ivona's mission was badly executed is absurd. Gospal eventually confesses that it was all a joke after hearing them, but Claude gives him the death stare and warns him to shut up. After being publicly shamed, Gospal decides to talk about his plan to call upon the Divine Beast King in the upcoming fight, much to the delight of the leaders. Gospal feels so confident since he has a plan, thanks to the man in white hood who brought up the subject of having a new summoner. He knows Gospal has been looking into summoners as a backup for Ivona in case she dies after using the secret text. However, unlike Ivona, his summoner has no drive to follow him, so he obtained a drug that allows him to control the person's thoughts, despite knowing that it has a high probability of failing. Now we know what really happened to the Baron. This couple is really evil. The mysterious person then directs them to buy the drug again, this time enhancing it so they can try it on the Baron's daughter, Helen. Stefan delivers all of the evidence and Feyren's report to Ivona and learns that she was correct all along, that Baron Giese uses mind-altering drugs. Ivona is positive that, because they will launch an attack tomorrow, Gospal will force Helen to perform the experiment tonight, which she will not allow. While Helen is busy following the instructions in the secret text, she is taken aback to see Ivona approaching her. Ivona then tells Helen that she knows Baron Giese instructed her to perform the experiment, despite the fact that she knows it will kill her. Helen, on the other hand, informs her that she will proceed with her plans regardless of Ivona's attempts to derail them, because she is putting something important at stake and doesn't care what happens to her. Ivona continues to explain that Gospal is to blame for both her father's eyesight and mental illness, which makes Helen stop making the magic circle and allows Ivona to share what she knows. Helen can't believe that this has been Gospal's scheme all along, and she suddenly falls on her knees, shaking, when she tries recalling the first time Gospal approached her. She screams because the pain in her head is unbearable, so Ivona quickly assists her and asks whether she remembers when the suffering began, and Helen reveals it was the day Baron Giese came to see her. Ivona then speculates that he may have drugged her without her awareness, leading her to lose memories and ultimately succumb to control. Helen begins to cry, believing that it is too late and that she must complete the experiment because Gospal has her father. Not to worry, Ivona has already planned everything, so she assures Helen that she is someone who can help treat her father, and all she needs to do now is trust and take Ivona's help. Helen is grateful for Ivona's kindness, but wonders why she is doing it. If our girl is honest, it is because she knows Helen's pain. But she simply says she wants Helen to become an Agentine summoner, which Helen blushingly accepts and swears to follow the Duchess. While returning home, Ivona realizes that her life is different now and decides to take the courage to move forward. So she plans to tell Claude everything when he wakes up, but is shocked to see that her husband is still awake waiting for her. The awkwardness between them is really in the air as they decide to go to bed without facing each other. Ivona can't sleep as she contemplates telling Claude about her horrible past, but she also wants to ask him questions and doesn't want to drift apart from him, so she faces him and is finally ready to answer him. So she begins by revealing that the main reason she is looking into Gospal is because she is concerned about his new fiancée, Helen, as she is in the same situation as she was before. They are both Gospal's shadow summoner, which is why Haslat is known to be Gospal's divine beast. Ivona also discusses the dangerous Vo'oten secret document and Gospal's plan to have Helen use it. She goes on a relentless tirade about how painful it is to try an experiment using the secret text, that Claude has to call her name and stop her. He looks so worried, but even though Ivona's panting and sweating heavily, she decides to keep going and ultimately discloses her biggest secret, that she traveled back 1 year in time. She then adds that she needed the Cyrodian fruit to boost her power because when the Demon King was resurrected in the past, they needed the help of the Divine Beast King, which she acquired after experimenting on herself. Nobody knew it was her that saved everyone, but she was content to be Gospal's shadow, even if it meant risking her life. But in the end, she was betrayed. She wants to tell Claude more about Tristan and Gospal, but Claude already understands how much she has suffered in the past. So he gives her a hug and says he doesn't need to hear anything else, as it is obviously agonizing for her. Our girl has finally addressed her trauma, and I am proud of her. Ivona apologizes, believing Claude would not believe she had been back in time, but he hugs her tightly and assures her that he believes everything she said. She then admits that she lived so blindly, so when she returned to the past, even knowing that the Demon King would be revived, her priority was to get away from Gospal, which she finds selfish, but Claude thanks her for it as it brought him to her. His expression was one of genuine hurt as he starts imagining how much she went through, and thanks her for bearing it all, causing Ivona to finally break down in tears. They then end the night with a kiss and a tender hug. So precious, so we must protect. The next morning, Ivona gets embarrassed after noticing their sleeping position, so she quickly pulls away, and you can see Claude's expression scream dismay. He then gets up to make her some tea, and his thoughts wander back to their chat last night about the Cyrodian fruit, of which he is already aware of the effects after seeing it in a dream. Claude began having unusual dreams last spring, the same season Ivona traveled in time, but they were all bits of different scenes of a battlefield, people's faces, and a woman in a hood with blue-gray eyes. So to put his dream to the test, He stopped distributing Kiridan fruits to different regions and wanted to see if they could really be made into an efficient potion. If his test fails, he intends to disregard everything. That is until Ivona, whose eyes match those in his dream, suddenly shows up. Claude accepted the contract marriage with Ivona not because her proposal was mutually beneficial, but simply because it was her. Gospal was nothing to him, as if his very life did not exist. But that changed when he married Ivona, and he was consumed by jealousy. Claude couldn't help but lose his composure whenever Gospal was around, since he hated that Ivona had closed her heart to him because of him. So when Ivona refused to open up to him, he had a sudden understanding that Ivona would never love him, so he left that night and went to the woods. While walking aimlessly, he came across a beast that surprised him, and in his haste to find a weapon, the beast bowed down to him. What in the novel world is this? Claude is at a loss for what to do, but he is certain of one thing. A guy like him does not deserve Ivona's love. He had been ignoring it, but ever since he rescued Ivona from the ruins, he had been experiencing unusual sensations and realized that something other than divine power had been flowing through him. It is the same energy that everyone can feel in the mountains, and it is none other than dark magic. Thankfully, the beast leaves unnoticed while Claude is taken aback by his own self-discovery. His life path was determined for him even before he was born as the Empire's savior. Yet a part of him hopes that Ivona will someday love him and see him for who he is. But it appears that even that wish has been taken away from him, making him laugh. He is no longer the keeper of the Holy Sword. Instead, he is just someone who is afflicted with dark magic. Poor Claude. Now he is thankful that Ivona has no affection for him, because if something happens to him, Ivona would not be too sad. So when Ivona distanced herself from him, he thought it was for the best. But after she opened up her heart to him, he couldn't help but yearn to be by her side. While they sip tea, his train of thought is interrupted when Ivona becomes serious, telling him that since she's finished sharing, it's time for him to share why he is in pain whenever he holds the Holy Sword. Just like Claude does to her, she wishes to carry Claude's burden as well. It's now my guy's turn to be honest. Claude hardly touches on the surface of his troubles, briefly mentioning that the Holy Sword's acknowledgement of him as its owner has weakened. It is not completely rejecting him, and he believes it is fine since his hand injuries are manageable, which Ivona opposes as she does not want to see him in pain. She caresses his palm and begins to suspect that she is to blame, for Claude has no trouble wielding his sword in the past, but now that she has traveled in time, he is having trouble with it. Claude then sits with her, acting all cute to distract her, and nuzzles on her shoulder, telling her that traveling back in time to marry him is the best thing that has ever happened to him. Thankfully, Ivona falls for his charm, but the truth is that the Holy Sword can either hurl itself away from anyone who is not the keeper, or burn when it comes into contact with magical monsters. So the fact that it is burning in his hand means it recognizes him as a beast. He's afraid that if Ivona finds out the truth, she will only blame herself. So he chooses to lie in order to keep Ivona by his side for a little longer. It has become even more clear to Claude after listening to Ivona's story last night that his dreams are his memories from his previous life. He doesn't remember how he did it, but he is certain that in order to save Ivona, he was the one who turned back the time to a period when Ivona was still free of suffering. I am getting more concerned for Claude. However, Claude has no regret since he is now witnessing Ivona healthy and vibrant. To have someone this in love with you is a gift. Back in the barracks, as the leaders prepare for battle, they can't help but express their worries about how powerful the beasts have gotten when the hero wannabe comes in, carrying his, new toy, which he claims will help him control his powers. When in truth, it is nothing more than a tool that can generate light to make him stand out. See? It really is a toy! Gosh! Gospal remembers the look on Helen's face when she finished the experiment, but the news that she had successfully forged a pact with the Divine Beast King made him so relieved. Observing Ivona, he feels certain that Helen, who was subjected to the experiment, will emerge stronger than her, and he can't wait to have this chance to exact revenge for all the insults he endured. He thinks Ivona is clueless about her place, and he intends to show her that she should be below him, watching him bask in his glory. He also longs to regain his rightful position, where everyone will admire him. Such an attention-seeking fool! The mission begins, and the monster now launches an attack, but they immediately understand that they will be difficult to defeat due to their swarming tactics and ability to fly. The leaders are told not to attack the beast, but rather to lure it away so that Baron Giese can prepare his attack. They are trusting Gospal now, since he proposed summoning the Divine Beast King and unleashing a single lethal strike, when the magical beast count reaches its peak. The leaders initially decline because Gospal has never been of help to them throughout the expedition. But Gospal stays steadfast, even swearing in the name of the Emperor to express his undying confidence. Duke Agentine intervenes just as everyone is about to react, telling Gospal that they would follow his plan as long as he accepts full responsibility for his conduct and guarantees that everyone in the room will attest to his statement. Gospal agrees, believing that this is his moment to shine. Grab some popcorn, everyone. This will be fun. Back in the present, everyone asks for Baron Giese's help because they can't control the beast's attack. He smiles confidently as he prepares to act like a real summoner with his toy, and secretly nods at Helen's direction. Lights from his props appear, and everyone is excited to see his return appearance as the Golden Summoner, while he is enjoying the spotlight. He then shouts as if summoning the King Divine Beast. Can't wait to see his downfall. Gospal announces the appearance of the never-seen-before King of the Divine Beast, but everyone is shocked to see a small, cute, blue fish-like Divine Beast. Everyone starts to doubt if it is indeed the king, so to test, Gospal lets it attack the beast. But because it isn't that powerful and is simply cute, the Divine Beast loses immediately. The knights are unhappy and turning to him, yelling at him, asking where the King of the Divine Beast is. Even when in danger, he still can't afford to tell them lies, claiming that it was done to lower the enemy's guard, and he prepares to summon the King of the Holy Beast once more. But then, a cute worm-like, or is that a snake, Holy Beast appears, enrages everyone and asks him to stop messing around. Helen is really here summoning these cute level 1 Pokemons to make fun of Gospal, and I'm living for it. This is not part of his plan, so Gospal starts getting dizzy with the failed summons and looks to Helen. But she's already gone. Now he realizes he's been duped, and Helen had never made a contract with the Divine King Beast. As the demons continue to attack, their barrier weakens, just in time for Ivona to come with her heavenly beasts to assist, drawing everyone's attention to her, leaving Gospal envious and facing the glaring eyes of the knights and leaders. He trembles, believing he's in major trouble given that he's been able to deceive everyone up until now because he had the King of the Divine Beast up his sleeve. The commander, Duke Agentine, announces his failure to summon the King of the Divine Beast and asks everyone to return to their original plan. Gospal's world is collapsing around him as he has never imagined himself to be in this position. All he ever thought was getting the spotlight tonight. He finally gets what he deserves. Duke Agentine then approaches him, who is already on his limits, calling Gospal's attention, telling him that the entire expedition team is in danger because of his failed plan, and reminding him of his oath on the Emperor's name. Facing Claude's intense stare and his leaking dark magic, Gospal loses his composure and plummets to the ground, quivering in terror. However, demon creatures assault Duke Agentine, giving Gospal the opportunity to flee while Ivona decides to follow him. Gospal makes a frantic run in order to avoid being caught, until he reaches their barracks. Upon inspecting the supplies of the force, he promptly sets everything on fire, hoping that the commotion would distract them from pursuing him. Ugh, my paper's running out of pages from writing all of his crimes. Ivona gets there just as the fire is getting out of hand, so she has to put out the blaze before she can go after Gospal, who is still making his getaway. His plan now is to see Tristan so that they can disappear using Tristan's Divine Beast power to make their carriage invisible, and make an appeal to the Emperor first. He begins to rationalize his behavior by making up a story to tell the Emperor about how Helen betrayed him when she promised to help him summon the Divine Beast King, only to ditch him in the end. Duh! That's supposed to be your job in the first place! Because of their familial relationship, this man actually believes that the Emperor would accept his explanations. I really think this trash dropped his brain while running. Upon reaching his designated meeting spot with Tristan, he is taken aback when he is met with Sally's joyful greeting, who claims to have come to assist him in his escape, and this guy, in his desperation, follows suit without asking. Sally, on the other hand, is actually redeeming herself and helping her master. Ivona is so preoccupied with putting out the fire that Sally offers to hold Gospal until Ivona returns, as she knows where he went. Be careful! Sally is dead set on stalling Gospal until he suspects her and wonders how she tracked him down. Fortunately, Sally is able to make an excuse that she saw him leaving while the knights are busy, and with her prettiest smile, she assures him that she didn't tell anyone and is merely trying to help her boyfie. She is becoming nervous, but she spots Gospal looking around as if he's looking for someone. And that's when she realizes Tristan is also in the mountains. She can't have them meet now, otherwise they'll be able to actually go away, so she starts leading him aimlessly while waiting for Ivona. Gospal, on the other hand, has become increasingly impatient as he notices that they remain close to the barracks. He then locks eyes with Sally in a vicious manner, forces her to the ground, and begins relentlessly stomping on her hand. This guy certainly needs professional help for his anger issues. When he grows tired, he grabs Sally by the hair and convinces her that killing a lowly maid like her is a simple task, believing that no one would notice if she went missing. He then commands her to beg, and as he continues to insult her for believing his empty promises, Sally, who is shaking with pain and terror, fires back, calling him a fraud who lies to be a golden summoner. Sally has been wondering for a long time if Gospal is simply born with a talent to be labeled the greatest summoner, considering she never saw him practice or study, and instead just hangs out with Tristan, unlike her master, who's always studying about summoning. Ivona doesn't have to tell her the truth because Sally has seen all of her efforts firsthand. And now Sally is certain of one thing: Gospal could never achieve what he has without Ivona doing the summoning for him. After Gospal finds out that he's been exposed, he chokes Sally to the point where she could die. As Gospal's temper flares, Ivona, riding Hazlat, finally shows up and slams him against a tree. She goes over to check on Sally, who quickly beams at her with relief, confirming she is fine. But when Ivona sees her injured and trembling hands, she becomes enraged but stops when the knights arrive. This year's expedition includes numerous noble families, sorcerers, and divine knights, all of whom hold significant positions in their empire. And it is unacceptable that Gospal led these people to their deaths, so he is labeled a traitor and will be sentenced. As he sits in shackles, he hears people muttering and looking at him with hate, and he realizes his reputation is doomed. However, it appears that he has one more ally in the form of his family knight's commander, who begs Claude to pardon Gospal, but stops after Claude warns him that if he chooses his master, he would be punished as well. Gospal then yells Ivona's name, requesting her help, considering they had a good relationship in the past. The audacity! But our girl merely looks at him coldly, her eyes filled with distaste, and then goes away. Gospal is now getting nervous since he can't find a way out of his problem, when this expedition was meant to be his moment to shine, and because of Helen, he failed. So he plans to kill both Helen and her father. But in order to do so, he must escape his small prison cage and remove the magical chain. Just as Trashton arrives. Here comes the manipulating lover again, and hello, where are the guards? Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot. Till the next one.